For the first time ever, Barrett-Jackson comes to the heartland of America. A region built on hard work, driven by innovation, and fueled by the passion for the automobile. From small town main streets to big city boulevards, car culture runs deep here. And today it's center stage for the world's greatest collector car auction. There's iconic American muscle, stunning supercars, cutting edge customs, timeless automotive works of art. Hundreds of incredible vehicles, all one incredible experience. From the heart of Ohio, Barrett-Jackson Columbus starts right now on FYI.
For the first time ever, the Buckeye State is hosting Barrett-Jackson, the world's greatest collector car auction. Well, hello and welcome to the Ohio Expo and Fairgrounds here in Columbus. You know, for generations, this location has been a host to a lot of wonderful events. And today, well, guess what? There's a lot of amazing collector cars here, passionate enthusiasts and willing bidders all ready to make their mark. And once you pass through this entrance, you get building after building, tent after tent of amazing collector cars. Everyone gathered here, and guess what? They're going to get a chance to write a new chapter in their story. They're going to go home with somebody new, and I'm going to guess many of them are going to end up right here in Ohio, possibly even staying in Columbus. And you know, this isn't just another stop on the auction road. This is the beginning of a new tradition, and one we are very excited to be spending with you. As always, we've assembled the best team in the business to guide you through each and every car up on the block. So let's get right to our experts, Mike Joy and Tyler Hoover.
Thank you, Rick, and hi, everybody, and welcome to Columbus. For the last 2 days, I've been talking to consigners here, and they are very excited about the first time in a brand new market for Barrett-Jackson. In fact, lot number 2 rolled across here just moments ago, $15,000 right off the bat. So, Tyler, first bite at the apple, it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, new location, but sort of the same story. Super Saturday, we'll sell $1 million cars plus, but Thursday, there's a lot of variety, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of things you feel like you could buy at home for less than a used Toyota Camry. You could get this, which is, I think, a lot more fun. So let's get right to it.
All right, lot number 6 is a Hudson, not a Doc Hudson, but a Hudson Super 6 from 1935. I'd call this a survivor more than a restoration, although it looks as if it may have had paint somewhere along the way. A lot of patina to the chrome and stainless trim, but where are you going to find another one?
Yeah, we don't see many pre-war cars with Barrett-Jackson nowadays, a few trickling in there, but we do have quite a bit coming here from Columbus. And yeah, I would say this one looks almost fresh pulled out of the barn. Maybe they knocked the dust off, but yeah, a very impressive survivor here.
I'm not sure this would have worn this metallic green paint new, and certainly it's been well enjoyed. No idea what the odometer says, but it's entry-level collectible day here at Barrett-Jackson.
Maybe not the paint job, but this interior certainly looks original. Neat, the suicide door treatment, even though it is the 4-door, and I would say so. That's original. Slightly moth-eaten interior, but they're only original once.
Well, that's a lot of fun for just $3,000. I mean, you can't go wrong with that for a 1935 Hudson Super 6. And as they push that one away, we're going to meet the final member of our broadcast team. Here's April Rose.
Right now I'm out here in the pre-staging lanes where all the cars line up right before they go across the block. And I got my eye on this 2002 Camaro B4C special service package. This was an actual police car. It was a pursuit vehicle used on the road, and it has 84,000 miles of police use. Now it's been decommissioned and ready for you to own. Take a peek inside. This is where you'd mount the radio right on the side here. It's got a little secret cup holder, but there's some extra holes where they mounted their computer to log all their information. All the extra lights, CB radio, which is interesting. They still have the carpet in there. A lot of police cars remove the carpet because things can get messy. This one still has those comforts. Backseat delete with plenty of storage. I mean, this is really cool. Imagine being pulled over in one of these. It used to have blue stripes going across. Then they made it undercover. It's like a badge of honor to get pulled over, and probably you got your gun mount, fire extinguisher in back, all the lights you need. This is one sweet ride. Now it's got a 5.7 LT1 4-speed automatic and one of 114 Arctic White B4C Camaros ever built. Rick?
That's part of the Woodward Dream Collection, a group of cars crossing the block over the course of the next few days. And over the next few days, we have plenty of time that you're going to get to watch our Barrett-Jackson collector car auction. Today, we're on the air until 5 o'clock Eastern time right here on FYI. Tomorrow, we're back for 6 more hours, from noon until 6 p.m. Eastern time on FYI. And then on Saturday, well, we get 7 full hours live on the History Channel from 11 a.m. Eastern time until 6 p.m. So, make sure you plan your schedule out just right, because you do not want to miss a minute. A lot of fun here in Ohio for the inaugural Barrett-Jackson auction here in Columbus. Welcome back to the Ohio Expo Center and Fairgrounds here in Columbus. So much to see, so much to do, and right now we're going to check in with April Rose and a special guest.
That's right. I have the most special guest, Craig Jackson, CEO of Barrett-Jackson. You are the man that's making this all happen. We're so lucky you're here. Now, we're in Columbus, Ohio. It's the first time Barrett-Jackson has been through Ohio. Why this spot?
It had a lot of things going for it. So we've always wanted to come to the heartland and looked at several cities, and the infrastructure, what they're putting in here, the ease to get here, the population and the car collector collections around here, and the culture. And it really is an automotive area, and it has been with all the auto manufacturers that have been in Ohio. It really checked a lot of boxes, and you can see by the crowds, people are turning out. I've had so many people say, I've had to always travel to go see Barrett-Jackson. Now I can just drive here.
Yeah, there are huge crowds today already this early with the start of the auction. Now, we've had some last-minute consignments. One in particular that I'm insanely excited about, the 918. Tell me about this.
So the 918s, we've been talking to them for a while, but getting it here, it had some issues getting transported. It is here on the ground. It will be selling Saturday at no reserve. So if you've ever wanted a 918, this is an opportunity.
Right, that Porsche 918 Spyder.
Beautiful gray color.
Really sweet liquid metal paint.
Yeah.
I love it. Now today, we've got a huge variety at Barrett-Jackson. There's a Saline Mustang.
Yep,
super
126.
Low miles, lot number 126. I'm really looking forward to that.
And followed by the Scout right after it. So you've got a lot of diversity in the docket. You saw the Aceta a little while ago.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of first-generation Broncos and those Scouts that builders do such a great job. They all bring them through here at Barrett-Jackson. There's also an Isetta, and Craig, let me give you a little hint. Rick DeBrule up there on the block owns an Isetta.
I've seen it.
And he says when he takes it out, women from all over come and check it out. So if you're single, maybe that's the car for you. We're going to see you go across later today, Rick.
Yeah, whoever would have thought Isettas would be chick magnets, but amazingly, they are. Everybody loves that thing when I take it out, I have to say. Up on the block now, something a lot more modern in a BMW world. How about a 2005 BMW 645 Ci?
Well, that means it's a V8 powered 6 Series, 2-door convertible. Tyler, this looks like your kind of hoopty. 85,000 miles. The vehicle history report says it's been hit twice. It's been fixed. Wow, you could have some fun here.
I might have just been bidding while Craig and April were talking, but I am out now so I can come back and take a look at this thing. Because, yeah, it's under 100,000 miles. It's had a few little incidents, but it's still presenting very well. And, you know, that Bangle butt on the back, loud and proud. Designer Chris Bangle penned this design here, and it was controversial at the time, but I think it's aged well.
Yeah, I like these, and somebody for hardly any money can have a car that costs almost $100,000 new, and the top goes down, the price goes up. Triple black, chrome wheels. Looks to be in pretty decent shape. This could be fun.
The King Kong of these is the M6, which had a V10 engine just screaming 500 horsepower. The 645 was the base engine, but still a V8, I think around 300 horsepower, good performance. So all these are great cars and very great values here, $6,800. That's it.
Well, today is Thursday. It is entry-level day here at Barrett-Jackson. The price is not quite as great as we'll see over the course of the next few days. And don't forget, go to barrett-jackson.com. That's where you can go to see a full list of all the cars that are going to be crossing the block over the course of our 3 days here in Columbus, Ohio. Right behind it, well, definitely something completely different. How about a 1953 Willys M38A1 Jeep, a military Jeep?
Well, that's the great thing about Barrett-Jackson. If you don't care for one car up on the block, the next one's probably going to be something completely different. This one is all restored, built post-World War II in Korea, 1953, and a lot of period-accurate accessories have been added. See a first aid kit there on the left. Got your jump seat in the back, canvas covering for these seats, new foam. That's pretty cool. Transfer case, a lot of gears to shift there. You go pretty much anywhere with this.
I'm seeing no key for the ignition, common with military vehicles, just a bunch of knobs to turn on the ignition, if you will. Yeah, right there, pulling it out. Along with the diagram there on the dashboard as far as how to engage the four-wheel drive and the transfer case, which was a novel concept back in the 40s and 50s. Mike, what do you see?
I see the hammer falling.
I'll tell you what, I think that's a pretty good deal. $9,500 for that 1953 Willys Jeep, the one you would have seen, you know, like going in MASH back in those television days. Congratulations to those folks right there. As Mike said, just wait a moment. It's like the weather, it'll change significantly. Now we got a 1985 Ford Ranger custom pickup truck.
I don't recall seeing one of these on the Barrett-Jackson auction block prior to today. Nice bright metallic blue, $289 under the hood. This one's had a big lift, got some hood scoops, got a bunch of add-ons to the body and the bumper. Could be fun here.
I don't believe this generation of Ranger was offered with a V8 at all, as far as you know, Iron Dukes or V6s, that kind of stuff. So this is sort of a what if, which would have been popular, I imagine, back in the day. Obviously raised with the big fender flares to fix those mudding tires. Looks really cool.
You know, there are some truck lines available today where you can't even get a single cab pickup. Crew cabs and super cabs or extra cabs proliferate.
Just that fast, we have a new #1 sale. Of course, we're still in our first hour at $18,000, and that guy is thrilled that they get to take home that 1985 Ford Ranger custom pickup truck. As we mentioned, a great variety of vehicles, all kinds of fun stuff that'll be crossing the block. And stick around, because today's got a big variety. The McGuire staging lanes here at the Expo and Fairgrounds. Look what we've got underneath, a wide variety of cars. I mean, you got that Thunderbird, you got that old Ford, you got that police car that April previewed just a little while ago, and you know, an Impala. Great collection of stuff. That's all going to be crossing the block in just a short time. And right now, we've got a motorcycle that is center stage. In this case, it's a 1991 Harley-Davidson Heritage Softail Classic.
And it has interesting provenance. This was owned by pro golfer John Daly. He sold it to country singer Johnny Lee. who some 15 years ago sold it to the current owner, and all of that provenance and documentation is included with it. None of that detracts from it being just a really nice cruiser.
Well, away it goes, $4,900 for that 1991 Harley Davidson. And as we mentioned, you go from one extreme to the other, from a rather small and almost sedate 1940s style motorcycle to a big beast of a 2003 Hummer H2.
You know, it's hard to believe it's been over 20 years since these first roamed the streets. And they were then and now large and in charge, just about maximum vehicle width, but a whole lot of creature comforts belying that all-military exterior. Look at that front bumper, and right down in the bottom, yes, that's a 2-inch hitch receiver. Toe from the front, toe from the back. Whatever you want to do with this, go right ahead.
Some of it wasn't real. On the real Humvee or the Hummer, you would grab this and you actually lift up the Humvee with a helicopter. This is just to help you raise the hood on this one. It's a plastic piece. But these were made for the public, for civilian use. They were never meant to be military at all. What blew my mind on this one, it is super clean, but 220,000 miles on the odometer. So this one's been well enjoyed, but also well taken care of.
Yeah, very well. I see aftermarket bumpers added with some tow hooks there. A big aftermarket exhaust, a lot of LED lighting, and I'll bet all those accessories were probably worth about as much as the Hammer price.
$16,000 for a 2003 Hummer H2. Now, if you would like to put your collector car knowledge to the test and maybe win an incredible prize in the process, you're definitely going to want to play Fantasy Bid, brought to you by Dodge. All you have to do is go to promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com to register and play. What you're going to do is try to predict the winning bid of select auction vehicles that will cross the block on Saturday, this coming Saturday, June 27th. The overall winner at the end of all 4 of the 2026 Barrett-Jackson auctions is going to get the grand prize, a 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack Plus. And if you're really on top of your game this week, you maybe can predict the exact final bid of all 12 Fantasy Bid vehicles. You could win $100,000. It's the perfect 12 jackpot, so make sure you register to play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You have to be 18 to play as well. Visit promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com for all of the official rules. All right, no fantasy bid today. Real money on the block for a 1961 VW Custom Dune Buggy.
Well, 1961 is the engine and the chassis and the steering. And you took the body off a VW Bug, you were left with a flat pan chassis and its rear engine. Bruce Myers first created the Myers Manx as the original Dune Buggy, and suddenly splash molded copies were all across America. You could build one of these for less than $1,000, including the donor car back then. You ended up with something that was much lighter than the original VW, so it was quicker. These are a lot of fun to drive and own, and of course very easy to work on. Everything's right out there in plain sight.
Yeah, exactly. It's that simple VW engine in the back. That one hot rodded up a little bit. $5,500. I think there's a lot of fun factor in that one. Rolling behind it, a 1947 Ford Deluxe.
Resplendent in gray, light gray. A very unassuming looking car. Because remember, when automobile production resumed after World War II, there had been no research done during the war or new body molds made or the dies to press new steel. So these are carryover styling from pre-World War II. Ford first started selling cars post-war as 1946 models, so here we are 1 year later with this pre-war styling. A lot of function, but by our standards, I'd say not a lot of form, not post-war form anyway.
Another major carryover was the flathead Ford V8, which came out in 1932, of course, and probably went a little too long into the 1950s, where everybody else was starting to do overhead valves. They continued with this flathead. It was, well, reliable enough for folks. This one, big money, I feel like, for a four-door car, but also a very high-quality restoration here.
Tell you what, $30,000. I think that's a fair amount of love for this 1947 Ford Deluxe and that 239 cubic inch flathead V8. Right now, that is the #1 sale of the day as we just start our first day of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. A 1989 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL Roadster arrives at center stage.
Well, a few minutes ago, the next generation of this car, an SL500, rolled across and was hammered for less than $10,000. So there are bargains to be had.
I bought it.
Oh, congratulations. I'd say that was well bought. What's this one going to do?
I don't know, but yeah, the last generation of the 107 SL here, the last year of it, and this one just shy of 100,000 miles. That red one earlier was 50,000 miles, but I do like the white with the navy blue leather interior, and these are just sort of instant classics. Even in 1989, this is sort of a very old design. It came out in 1972, so it looked like a vintage car just rolling off the factory new, but I think it's an elegant sort of timeless design of that vintage Mercedes, and there's always been a following for these.
This one looks like it's been preserved rather than restored. White over blue upholstery.
Well, $10,000 is going to take that one away to a brand new home, that 1989 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL Roadster. All right, we're going to stay in the European spec. In this case, a 1980 Porsche 928, a Euro spec version.
Well, this one's been treated to a bit of aftermarket. For example, the headlights are no longer present on this one. Wheels have been blacked out. There is a roll bar, not a full roll cage, but a bolt-in bar, and some way past their sell date belts that, of course, have to be replaced. So, I don't know, Tyler, I see this as a track day terror here.
I think so, but it was messing with my head when I saw the photos of it. I thought it was like AI doing a bad version of the 928 because the headlights are gone. They would pop out. They were exposed, but they would pop out and up, when they were used. But somebody, since it's a track car, decided to delete it. I guess you have the fog lights. It could be headlights down there. But yeah, this looks like a track weapon, which the 928 really was never meant to be. It's supposed to be a Grand Touring car.
And I'm going to go short of calling it that because that roll bar is just bolted in and not in a place where it would support or bolster the chassis. So there's work to be done, but gosh, Rick, at that price, go right ahead.
I think that's pretty much the cheapest 928 you're going to find that actually runs, and that gentleman right there gets to take it home. All right, a little earlier, April Rose previewed this 2002 Chevy Camaro, but it's unique because this has the special service package, essentially a police car.
Well, this comes from our friend Mike with the Woodward Avenue collection. And yeah, the police package was B4C was the RPO code, the option code for the police package. And when you got that, it meant that you got a Camaro with all of the road racing performance parts and just about everything but the decals, the livery. And boy, this one's loaded up.
Yeah, still having its lights and sirens. Even the gun mount in the back, they have a toy gun as far as holding in there. But this would have been to catch the bad guys on the highway. I believe it was used for a California Sheriff's Office for almost 2 decades before it was retired, and they kept it up pretty nice. 84,000 miles on it. But this is the last year of the 4th generation Camaro.
Well, very street legal, except you're not allowed to use those lights when you're cruising around because those things are not street legal unless you're an actual officer.
However, they're LEDs and they're programmable. You can run the yellow and white lights, just not with the red and the blue, okay?
$11,000 for that 2002 Chevrolet Camaro with that police package, that 5.7-liter V8 engine underneath the hood. Coming up, well, something with a slightly smaller engine. How about a 1967 VW Karmann Ghia? This one is a custom. Got a bigger engine, 1985 cc's. Look at that thing right there. A lot of custom work inside and out. We'll see it put on block very soon. Oh, beautiful out here in Columbus. The Scioto River running right through the center of town. That great skyline. Columbus is the 2nd largest city in the Midwest behind Chicago. So nearly 1 million people within the city limits of Columbus alone. And today it is host of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. Up on the block right now, We got a 1966 Chevrolet Impala.
Very clean one here. 1966. They're still huge, of course, and beautiful red paint on this one.
Well, and just that fast, it becomes the #2 sale of the day for that 1966 Chevrolet Impala. And just that fast, we're going to check in with April Rose.
Hey, Rick, right here. I'm in the pre-staging lanes, and I have a really special guest to introduce you to. Larry Webster, editor-in-chief, Hagerty Magazine. That's a pretty big deal. The knowledge in this man's head is endless. Now, I asked you to pick one car that was going across the block today to talk about, and you got this one right behind us, 2004 Pontiac GTO. What is it about this car that got your attention?
I tell you, April, I love a car with a story. This car has a fantastic story. You know, it started in Australia.
Right.
When a group of really passionate folks working at GM Australia, which is called Holden, built a concept car for the 1999 Sydney Auto Show. They wanted a replacement for the Holden Monaro. This was the car. It received such a huge response that they decided to build it. And then simultaneously over here in the U.S., Bob Lutz was looking for a replacement for the Firebird. He says, well, wait a minute. We got this V8 rear drive coupe in Australia that's going gangbusters. Let's bring it stateside.
Right, and that's a pretty famous name, but here's the thing. It didn't do that well when it debuted here in America. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's really interesting because the bones of this car are actually pretty special. It's got a Corvette 350 horsepower V8, rear drive, independent suspension, and you could get it with a stick. But it didn't sell as well as they had hoped. They only sold about 40,000 in 3 years, largely because this body shape that they loved in Australia, the U.S. buyers were expecting a return of the GOAT.
Right, the GTO, more of a muscle car. This is a sports car, but I would call it a sleeper. And hey, maybe it's going to be collectible today or one day soon.
Well, this is, like I said, a fantastic performance car, the fastest, best-handling GTO ever made with a great backstory.
Man, I want to get the keys, Larry. Do you have a bidder's pass? We need to hook him up with one. Let's get you back to the block.
There's always a bidder's pass laying around someplace. Thanks a lot. Larry, welcome to the team for at least a short time. And April, always good to check in with you. And up on the block right now, 1999 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL Roadster.
I'd like to say this one's in better shape than the last one that came across. This one has a jump seat behind the front bucket seats, white over beige leather. And most of these have the two tops, the removable hard top and the convertible soft top, but not so here. Is this a coupe? Is this removable?
No,
this is removable.
It's very, very well done as far as the seam there, but it does pop off. Yeah, this is the Roadster. The SLC had a much bigger back seat, and that was the coupe of these. But yeah, you're seeing double, but this one a tan interior, the one before had a blue interior. This one 130,000 miles, so more miles, but the same money, I think, as the last one.
$10,000 is what it sells for. Wait a minute. Now they've got a question. There was an extra bid that came in at the very end, so the bidder's assistant you see right there is trying to make sure that the auctioneer has the right bid.
Yeah. Let's see about that.
So there we go. They're checking with him to make sure they got it. So the bid continues on. Now we're up to $10,500. Bidder assistant checking to go. Do you want to go up? Do you want to go down? What do you do? He says, nope, I think we're done here. We're up to $11,000.
Mike, I think in this case, condition trumps mileage. So that one was a lower mileage car sold earlier, but for less money.
I agree, Tyler. I think once you get through past 6 figures on the clock with these, it becomes all about condition. I agree.
$11,500. And once again, the auctioneer is kind of like the captain of the ship. You know, just because he says sold or puts a hammer down, if he believes somebody was getting a bid in at the last moment and was a legitimate bid, he has the option of making sure that gets in. Right now we got a 1977 Monte Carlo.
So this is the second generation of Chevrolet's personal luxury coupe. And I believe this is the last year before these were downsized for 1978. You got the stacked rectangular headlights, which were all the rage, all that front bumper overhang. And inside, you got a bench seat as standard. That's what this one has, with room for 3 kids in the back, and the half vinyl top, which seemed to be on just about every other GM two-door in this era.
Got to say, this thing is in incredible shape overall. Nice paint, the vinyl top looking good, and none of the rust bubbles around it that you would see back in the day with ones that are starting to age. Let's see, showing 46,000 or 4,600 miles on the auto, right? 4,600, so it might have turned over once, but definitely well preserved. The interior looks original and very nice as well.
Yeah, this is a base coat, clear coat repaint, but it was done to a very good standard.
Well, it just
Sharp
sold
car.
for $10,500 to that gentleman right there. All right, from a Monte Carlo to a 1987, about a decade later, Chevrolet. This one's a C10 pickup.
I love these GM two-tones, whether it's the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s. Just saw a look at the new 2027 Silverado, and it would lend itself to a nice two-tone treatment, unlike the one that's currently in the showrooms.
This is beautiful and definitely repainted to a very high degree, which isn't as common on the long bed pickup trucks. Square bodies are really hot right now, but the long bed is definitely one, people sort of don't favor them. So you usually don't see one done to this quality as far as the nicest of the repaint, the interior, and all that stuff. But that's still getting some pretty good bits here.
The Silverado was the top-of-the-line trim for these full-size pickups. You had the base, then the Cheyenne, then the Silverado. And that meant you got these really nice, comfortable cloth seats, deep foam. Plenty of room for 3 across here on this single cab.
Well, love that two-tone paint like you, Mike. $16,500 for that 1987 Chevy C10 pickup. That big 350 cubic inch V8 under the hood. All right, time to move to 2000. In this case, a GMC 1500. Now, this one is pretty well done. It's a Chariot Regent conversion van.
Well, conversion vans were all the rage for a couple of decades. You add big picture windows on both sides. You add a fiberglass roof cap to increase the headroom inside. Put on a set of alloy wheels and really doll this up. Wow, you got blinds on the windows, you got wood trim, got plenty of room for the whole family. In fact, probably a baseball team in here.
Go up high. You might catch it as it's going down the block. There is a little TV up there and a VCR to watch your Barrett Jackson reruns in. But back in the 80s, this is of course a 2000, conversion vans were sort of the luxury SUVs, if you will. You didn't have any luxury SUV choices, so a lot of people would create conversion vans like this, and they were really, really nice cruisers.
Well, Airstream does a nice conversion van now on a Mercedes or a Freightliner chassis, but they're in the 6 figures. You want to buy a new one.
Yeah, there's no shortage of really great versions of that. Like you say, the Airstream is a nice one. 1996 Jaguar XJS convertible up on the block.
The Executive Express. Look at those beautiful Euro headlights. A bunch of pinstriping has been added. There's the Leaper on the hood. The Jaguar. This one are these faux wire wheels. Well, no, they're real wire wheels, but faux spinners on them. So a little bit of customizing here.
I like it. It definitely works, I think, with the white walls. And this is another design that was very long in the tooth by 1996. The XJS came out in the 70s, and the redesign was supposed to happen sooner, but it got stolen for Aston Martin with the DB7. One thing that changed towards the end, they went back to an inline 6, which people definitely favor over the V12s. You say V12, it's cooler. Well, it wasn't putting up that much horsepower. So you got the reliable inline 6 with about the same horsepower and way lighter weight.
And it's a convertible, so nice boulevard car.
Yeah, to your point, Tyler, they brought this body style out, I think, in like 1975. And this was the end of the line, 1996, the final version for this car. A solid cruiser, just not as sporty as I think a lot of the Jaguar enthusiasts wanted back then.
Just top 20 grand, and it looks like a very low mileage, 47,000 miles on the odometer. This one, the interior looks like new, so this thing is pretty well preserved. The pinstriping, the wheels, take away from the original, but it's sort of period correct. I like it.
$22,000, that gentleman right there, arm up in the air. He was in it to win it the whole time. No matter what the bid was, he was always pumping it up. Congratulations. Welcome back to Barrett Jackson in Columbus. Up on the block right now, a car we previewed just a little while ago, a 1967 VW Karmann Ghia Custom.
Well, I've never seen one done like this, Rick. It's been shaved of all ornamentation, all handles. The front grills are gone. Different headlights have been added. EMPI-style wheels, an upgraded engine, gleaming silver paint. This looks like a lot of fun for the money right here.
Yeah, right now we're only bid to $12,000, and of course those headlights up front look familiar because they came from a Porsche. So $12,000 for all that custom work on that Karmann Ghia. Congratulations to that gentleman right there. From 1967, we're going to roll the clock back to 1953, and boy, look how styling changed so significantly in just 14 years. This is a 53 Ford Crestline Victoria.
Yeah, the Crestline Victoria was a two-door hardtop, kind of the answer to what GM was doing with the Buick Riviera and the Cadillac Coupe de Ville. Look at this emblem. This was the Ford logo back then in the 1950s. The blue oval would come along much later, and the 50s were all about the jet age, so get a look at that hood ornament. Tyler, this is in great shape.
Incredible shape, and I was talking about earlier about the flathead Ford hanging on for a really long time. Well, here we are in 1953, and it's still that flathead Ford from 1932 basically under the hood. I think following this year, they finally went to the modern era as far as overhead valve, or 55, somewhere around there. But this one, yeah, exceptionally clean.
Where would you find all of this gleaming stainless trim, like on the C-pillar, like at the base of the window, on the doors, or in front of the rear wheel opening? Wow.
You know, Mike, a little earlier we were talking about that 1947 Ford that rolled across, how that was part of the pre-war designs. In 1949, that's when Ford came out with its post-war design, and then this one basically went through 1954. So $18,500 for that 53 Ford Crestline Victoria. Big, huge pickup truck from 1987 roll up and up to the block, a Chevy Silverado 3500.
So here's what you do. You buy the collector car of your dreams at Barrett-Jackson, as Tyler did about an hour ago. You buy this dually pickup to haul it home with. Go to U-Haul, rent a trailer. You're good to go.
No problem getting home. It's just a lot of stops at the gas station with that 454 cubic inch under the hood. They weren't worried about efficiency. They were worried about pulling power with this one. So, yeah, the 1-ton dually, so the big boy, but the regular cab. So we never see this, of course, nowadays, big 1-ton trucks. I guess a few in the commercial applications, but it looks almost strange nowadays to see a 1-ton dually with a regular cab. But with the 2-tone in the topper, I think it looks great.
Yeah, very sharp look. Some pinstriping's been added, a visor over the windshield, and that full-length cap, which looks like it's been bonded to the bed. Fiberglass, fiberglass outer fenders here have been added, and nice 2-inch hitch receiver for whatever you want to tow. It's got a lot of life left in it.
And this was an era when the trucks really were getting a little more civilized. I had an 86 Chevy Suburban with the same basic body style. Things were getting to be a little more comfortable. They were really getting the idea that drivers wanted something more than utilitarian.
Lear, L-E-E-R, was one of the company that made these caps, and they were an early leader in the pickup truck bed cap business and promoted it heavily in 3 different places on this one.
They certainly were more refined, of course, with the generation, but with the dually, it's pretty harsh. They actually ride better when you have a heavy load with a trailer on the back. Then the suspension comes into play and feels a lot better. But this one, very clean.
Well, per pound, it's quite a deal. $10,500 for that 1987 Chevy Silverado. It's the 3500. Congratulations to that gentleman right there. A little while ago, April Rose was talking about this car, the 2004 Pontiac GTO, and it's up on the block right now.
Well, I'm with Larry Webster on this one. They brought this car over from Australia, tried to sell it as the new GTO after Pontiac had turned down a whole lot of other proposals for what could have been a new GTO. They decided on this. The original GTO was a Pontiac Le Mans dressed up with a hood scoop, some wider wheels, some exhaust tips, and badging. That was it. So they tried the same thing, and it did not work in 2004. People expected more, and a wing on the trunk and a badge in the grille, sorry, just wasn't going to do it. A very capable car, not what buyers wanted.
I agree, but if you think about what it replaced as far as the 2002 Pontiac Firebird, especially the Trans Am with the looks as far as that ram air hog nose and the wild wings, the styling was just so out of control. This looked kind of muted, very, even though it's Australian, very European. So it just didn't make sense. It got panned. I feel like if they didn't put the GTO badge on it, it might have done better if they just thought of something else entirely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rocker panel extensions on a worn bar of silk body. Nope, buyers stayed away in droves. Sorry, because it's a very capable car.
Yeah, the body was just a little too smooth looking. It didn't stand out. It didn't have enough, well, bling if you want to call it that, but I think muscle is really a better word. It just looked like another sedan that was going down the road.
And this was one of many string of failures when it came to Pontiac. So by the end of the decade, they were gone. In GM's bankruptcy, they decided Pontiac was no more. So this and the Solstice are the last sort of sporty Pontiacs that you could buy.
Well, that and this car's replacement, the G8, was a very capable four-door sports sedan.
$10,000, and that guy is very, very thrilled. I think that's the second one he's come away with today, a 2004 Pontiac GTO. Very capable in terms of 0 to 60, 5.3 seconds. But just not a lot of love over the years here in the United States. Maybe it'll finally find its audience. Well, up behind it, we got a 1997 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. This one's the WS6 convertible.
So as we were talking, this is the car that GTO replaced, the last edition Firebird. This one with the nostrils on the hood, the Ram Air, the chrome wheels. Yeah, that was all the rage back then. Look at how far that windshield extends down into what would have been a long hood line. That means those rear spark plugs are going to be all but impossible to reach. Good luck with that.
They didn't make convertible versions of the GTO, but I guess we're going to see live which one is more desirable here at Barrett-Jackson back-to-back. And so far, the GTO is beating it. I think that one was lower mileage, but these are not the most desirable of the fourth generation Trans Ams because later, the year after this, they came out with the LS engine. This one would still be the LT1 under the hood. The LS bought a big horsepower bump.
Now, we're going to have one of those anniversary Trans Ams a little later. I'm not sure if that one's a convertible or not. Here, the top going down, you'd think the price would go up. Well, maybe the convertible season just isn't as long here in Ohio as it is in Phoenix, where this car came from.
Hey, what, 65,000 miles? They made less than 500 of this combination. So, I mean, it's potentially a desirable car. If you were one of those kids who was growing up in, you know, the late 90s, the early 2000s, this is probably one of the cars you were lusting after. And I got to say, right now, I think this is a solid deal.
Especially with that WS6 performance package. Better handling, better brakes. So you do have, you know, the Trans Am V8. So the great options as far as what you could get in 1997.
Yeah, resale red over saddle. What's not to like here?
I mean, the snout is questionable. Those Ram Air induction scoops, some people love them, some people hate them. But either way, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $15,500 for that 1997 Pontiac Firebird, the Trans Am convertible, less than 500 made, and away it goes to a new owner. Well, that puts a wrap on our first hour of coverage today here in Columbus. But you know what? We are just getting warmed up because we have 4 more hours of live auction action headed your way. Welcome to Barrett-Jackson, the world's greatest collector car auction. And for the very first time, we're here in the Midwest, Columbus, Ohio. And guess what? It's been a lot of fun so far. Plenty of interesting cars crossing the block, like this 1986 Porsche 944 Turbo.
Well, the Turbo was the top of the line for this, the middle of the 4-cylinder transaxle cars, 924, then 944, eventually the 968. But this with the turbo motor, this is the one you want. This one has the phone dial wheels. It does have a sunroof, has the later dash with a couple of sun cracks. That's okay. I'm told it takes 8 hours to change the clutch in one of these, so you want to make sure that's been done. 5-speed manual transmission backing up that 2.5-liter turbocharged 4. This one's said to be a Euro spec car with the Porsche striped cloth inserts in the interior. 73,000 miles here.
Yeah, and that's really important because I tell you what, this car immediately shot up to $25,000. You know, so far today, most of the cars we've seen have been significantly cheaper than that. We only have one car that sold for more than that, a 1947 Ford Deluxe, which is the #1 sale so far here at Barrett-Jackson today at $30,000. Remembering, of course, that's just the very first hour of the first day, and the quality of the cars, the price of the cars will go up during the course of both today and the next 2 days here in Columbus.
Now, importantly, this car retains its records and service records, so you have a complete history on that. That adds value all the way to $25,500.
Exactly. The right miles, the right stuff inside, $25,500. Those folks are thrilled to take it home. That Porsche 944. All right, I love this rolling up behind it. A 1929 Ford Model A mail truck.
Well, you could buy a finished Model A from Ford, or you could buy a cab and chassis, as has been done here, and add the bodywork to it. There's steel up here in front, a two-piece windshield for ventilation, but the rest of this body is wood. This is a sliding door. I believe it's latched, so I can't show you that. But you got a Model A chassis and engine. And the padlock goes here when it's closed. Then you can flip that up and open up where the mail is all kept secure. I don't remember these, but I remember 50s steel-bodied mail trucks in this same drab green with these same gold letters, the Dulux gold wheels. So a modern version of what's... Does this have a klaxon horn? Is this a klaxon horn? Can you try the horn for us? Yeah, that one. Okay, well, it's an electric horn, and the switch isn't on. We'll let it roll away.
You got to realize, I mean, it was only a couple years earlier than this. They were still building the Model T. That goes out of production in 1927. They shut down production for a while at Ford. Imagine that, completely shutting down production and switching over to the Model A. The Model A, of course, a great leap forward. And, you know, Ford was really forced into it. Henry Ford liked the idea of saying, well, this is what America needs, that Model T. But with Chevrolet, the other car manufacturers were building better cars, and the Model A was all about trying to keep up.
Henry Ford was not about advancements, he was about mass production. For example, these Model A's still have cable-operated brakes. Yeah, just like your bicycle. Hydraulic, or what the hot rodders called juice brakes, wouldn't come along for quite some time. And of course, they kept these flathead engines for way past their prime.
And back in this era, as you mentioned, there were a lot of aftermarket companies that were selling a variety of different coachwork bodies that you could put on this, and that's exactly what we have. $15,000, the hammer price for this 1929 Ford Model A mail truck. Still has that 6-volt electrical system. The 1996 Dodge Ram 1500 Indy 500 Pace Truck Edition.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool piece. Dodge then was all about this bright metallic blue and big white stripes on just about everything. Of course, you had an official pace car at Indy, but you also needed support cars, parade cars, and trucks. And if you're going to build them for the racetrack, why not build an edition for the dealers? This one with some 5-spoke American Racing mags. Those paint stripes have been clear-coated over. 17-inch wheels, fiberglass tonneau. And a gray interior with a bucket. No, it's a split bench seat with a fold-down center section that becomes a mini console. This one looks like it has been enjoyed but not abused. It's in quite good shape.
Yeah, I love the color, that brilliant blue, the white stripes. And of course, you know, this commemorates the 1996 race. That's when it was the official truck of the Indy 500. That was the first year for the IRL, and the year that Buddy Lazier won the Indy 500.
84,000 miles. This truck looks a lot better than an 80,000-mile pickup should. For $11,000, I think somebody gets a great buy here.
I'll tell you what, it looks muscly. It's got a great look to it, that big solid grille up front. And once again, I love the colors on this. I like the way it's got the tonneau cover across the black with the stripes that go all the way back. The U.S. flag above the Viper name. So I love the exhaust as well. There you see the Indy 500 logo on the back, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There you see it right there. Once again, commemorating that race in 1996, the little Viper name. And like you say, what, less than 90,000 miles on it? I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. There it goes, $13,000 for a 1996 Dodge Ram 1500 Indy 500 pace truck. Love the color, love the stripes, love everything about it, and somebody else is going to get to enjoy it. All right, I love this car rolling up right now. A 1967 Datsun 1600 Roadster.
This is the car that made Datsun, now known as Nissan, a real player in the American sports car arena. This is going to have a single overhead cam, 1600 cylinder engine. This one with the dual. They look like SU carburetors, but they are licensed by SU and made by Hitachi. Yeah, this is a pushrod version, not the overhead cam version that would follow along. But Bob Sharp in Wilton, Connecticut was a Datsun dealer. He took these racing, won the SCCA National Championship with them. Pete Brock would follow on the West Coast with the Datsun 2000 a year or two later. This was an interesting, let's say, upgraded version of the MGB, which at that time was America's favorite sports car with $250,000 already sold. But Datsun just kind of took the MG formula and did them one better with this 1600 and later the 2000. Not many of these survived in this condition because, you know, rust.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, it had the reliability, and to your point, that's what helped Datsun eventually take over the lead as a sports car manufacturer. You know, to your point, initially it was a 1600cc engine, then it went to the 2000cc engine. In college, I had a good friend named Mike Faulkner at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. We both lived in the LA area, and he and I would regularly commute between Los Angeles and our girlfriends in San Luis Obispo in this thing. It was great to ride in. It was really actually very comfortable.
These cars had one big advantage over the MGB. The electrical system did not rely on the bullet connectors of Lucas Electrics that quickly corroded and left you wondering why by the side of the road.
Yeah, the old joke, why do the British drink warm beer? Because they have Lucas refrigerators. $22,500, solid money for this 87 1600.
Showing your age, Rick.
Well, all those who remember that Lucas stuff know it well. 1967 Datsun 1600. I tell you what, it's a great-looking car, and I think it was a good buy for that gentleman. $22,500. And with that, let's check into the Meguiar's staging lanes and April Rose.
Hey, Rick, I'm with this beautiful car, 1978, 25th anniversary Corvette. And now she is a replica, not the real thing. And this is the first time Corvette designates that on the VIN tag, but the consignor does state on this description here that it is a replica, and it's easy to spot a clone because of that VIN discrepancy. But it does have the full anniversary treatment. You got the black over silver with that pinstripe running all the way down. It's got the L82 engine for speed, and back here, I love these center fuel fillers to pull up at the gas station on either side. Very cool wraparound fastback glass, great visibility. Of course, the mirrored T-tops on top is a cool futuristic look. Inside, you got these bucket seats. I always love them. They wrap around you, that high bolstering, and they almost look like an astronaut with that metallic silver on the edges. Now, for the real anniversaries, they made over 6,000 of them. So we're about to see what a clone will bring, if it will bring anything close to that, Rick.
Bold colors, showing a little bit of wear, but it's a great car for its era. All right, away it goes, and we're going to take a quick break here at the Ohio Expo and Fairgrounds Expo Center. We'll be right back with the Barrett-Jackson collector car auction, the very first time here in Columbus. Hey, what a great day here in Columbus. Perfect for hosting the first ever Barrett-Jackson collector car auction here in the Midwest. You know, Columbus, the state capital, almost 1 million people who live here within the city limits. And a lot of them are showing up here at Barrett-Jackson at the Ohio Expo Center and Fairgrounds. And right now, center stage, we've got a 1966 Mustang.
Yeah, 66, two-door hardtop, $289. And I think this is the case where the seller has left some money on the table. The sides of this car present very, very well. But the hood, the roof, and the trunk are very sun faded. Looking at the finish here, there's plenty of paint on these panels, and I think an hour spent with a buffer would have been well rewarded here on the block as this thing bumps and rumbles its way to $15,000.
Hey, what? Gleaming paint always attracts attention. You know, this is the C code engine, the base 289. The next notch up would be the 289 with the 4-barrel, and of course, work your way up to one more engine above that. But, you know, simple, basic, but better than the 6-cylinder there. So it's a fun car to start in the collector world.
And the panels look to be in good shape. And I've noticed, Rick, in the last 2 hours that here in the Rust Belt, that is very important. A lot of these cars have been brought by consigners in the Sun Belt, and that certainly would account for the faded paint on this. But what I'm not seeing is any through rust. And if you're buying cars up here in the northern half of the United States where they salt the roads in the winter, that is very, very important.
$17,000 for a 1966 Mustang, the 289 cubic inch engine, the 2-barrel carburetor underneath the hood. Way it goes to those folks right there. From Mustang to Corvette, a 1974 powered by a 350 cubic inch V8.
Yellow over saddle, luggage rack, automatic transmission with the body color bumper covers, which at first, when these first came out, Rick, I thought, okay, this is an advance. Makes the car look all of a piece. Makes it look like those British sports cars we used to take the bumpers off of so they'd look more like race cars. But as time goes on, the early Gen 3 Corvettes, 1968 to 72, have become more valuable with the original chrome bumpers. Funny how that market has evolved.
Well, but they also have the advantage of having more horsepower. During this era, the horsepower was on the wane. Over the course of the next few years, I think they're down to a Corvette that only chunks out, 160 horses. So, yeah, the chrome bumpers look better in some ways, but more importantly, they were there when the horsepower, had that advantage. You had more performance coming out of the car.
You're exactly right. AM/FM stereo on this one. 350 V8 automatic. T-tops. It would be another decade before we would see another new generation of Corvette.
Yeah, this generation, we always call it the Mako Shark car, started out so strong in 1968. Everybody was really looking forward to this from a design perspective. It really jumped everything forward. But once again, this is really remembered for that late 70s, mid-70s era, the early 80s, when it just didn't have a lot of performance, which is so unfortunate because I think it is a great-looking body style.
Fresh paint on this one, that bright yellow, looking pretty much like a Daytona yellow. And that luggage rack, well, it's functional for two reasons. First of all, there is no ribs where the gas filler sits, so you can get there. The blue tape you'll see on every car here at Barrett-Jackson in Columbus. That's one of the state regulations, that the tanks have to be sealed. And there is no opening trunk on this generation of Corvette, so the luggage rack is very useful, even if we can debate its attractiveness all day long.
Yeah, the hatchback was still a few years down the road. $13,500 for that 74 Corvette. Barrett-Jackson.com, the place to go to see the entire list of cars that will be crossing the block over the course of the next 3 days. You might, find something you really like. And guess what? It's not too late to register to bid if you want to. You can either bid over the internet, you can bid by phone, or better yet, you could come in person. 1970 Volvo P1800. I love these things.
Yeah, these debuted in, I think, 1963, about 7 years before this one, with a 1.8-liter pushrod four-cylinder. By this time, they'd been upgraded to a 2-liter, alloy wheels added, and some of the gingerbread chrome removed. These were not only fun sports cars to drive, they were bulletproof. There's stories of these going 200,000-300,000 miles and holding up very, very well. So late in the design cycle, but still an attractive car, a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah, 1970, a lot of changes for this car. They brought out the fuel injection, which bumped it up, I think, to about 130 horsepower. you know, from a television perspective, remember the old TV show The Saint? This is what Roger Moore would drive around in. I love the look of these cars, and I really love the shooting brake version, the ES, with that great hatchback in the back. So it's a great looking design, and I think it's finally beginning to come into its own. For a long time, this is a car I don't think, frankly, got the appreciation that it deserved for its style.
No, you're right, and we saw that shot from the back. 1970, this was about the only car left in New Car Showroom that still had tail fins, and yet it wore them well.
Absolutely, and according to the consignor, this only has 61,000 original miles on the odometer. So looks great, very original, and they say that it was restored using original equipment parts. So $18,500, solid deal for that 1970 Volvo P1800. All right, away it goes. We're going to take a break as well here in Columbus. Welcome back to Columbus, the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction, our inaugural auction here in Ohio. Very excited to be here at the Ohio Expo Center and the fairgrounds. Plenty of cars inside. There's several buildings. And there's a new building that's going to open up next year. We're really looking forward to bringing the auction back for that one. And up in the block now, solid money for a 1954 Bel Air Chevy Custom.
Second year for the Bel Air as the top-of-the-line Chevrolet. It got a little bit of two-toning here on the rear quarters with the Bel Air call-out, so people would know you bought the top-of-the-line Chevy. I like the wheel and tire treatment, chrome reverse wheels with baby moons, and they wanted everybody to know you paid extra for the automatic transmission. It says Power Glide in foot-long letters across the trunk.
$26,500. Once again, I think that's pretty solid money for the very last year of that pontoon-fendered Chevrolet. Pulling up, this is the car that April previewed just a little while ago, a 1978 Corvette. This is the 25th anniversary, but this one happens to be a pace car edition.
Well, as we said with the Dodge truck earlier, you had pace cars, so let's build them all for the dealers. Let's call it the pace car edition. Just over 6,900 of them were made for this year, all in this black over silver two-tone with the red pinstriping. And the anniversary badge up on the hood, noting that the Corvette first came out in 1953. Now, these cars, all with silver interiors, were shipped to the dealer with the pace car graphics in the trunk. You could choose to apply them or not, and they're not present here. What we're seeing here is a bit of spider webbing, and that is just what happens over time between the paint that was used then and the resin in the fiberglass of these bodies. So I would say at least that door is original paint. It does have the Indy decal here on the rear quarter panel.
An awful lot of these were just put away and not used at all. And we see more than a few of them come to the auction block. This one looks like it's had a few miles put on it, so it's actually pretty nice. You know, you had your choice back then, getting two engines. The base engine had 185 horsepower. This one has the L82. I think it had like 220 horsepower in that time.
Rick, it's been well enjoyed, but not over enjoyed. I'd say 45,000 miles is probably on the low side if you had a car of this performance, style, and capability. And you've had it for not quite 50 years. It's only 1,000 miles a year. Come on.
Well, and especially that's nice if it's been slowly used over that period of time, because the reality is having a car sit and not run, you know, hoses dry out, things start to, you know, create problems that crack, the lubrication isn't there. So if it does get regularly used over a period of time, it's actually better for the car. And we're going to call this one a survivor. Yeah, some of the paint issues you can see right there, the fading on the bumper and everything, but I think it just shows a lot of the originality that is attached to this car. And the fact that it's got that L82 350 cubic inch engine under the hood, I think it makes it a nice buy. Think about that. If it does indeed have less than 50,000 miles, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $15,000. All right behind it is a 1959 Ford Country Wagon. So it's time for some Hagerty Fast Facts on this vehicle. It was produced from 1952 to 1974. It was the full-size wagon. It could carry up to 9 passengers. And this came in both the 2- and the 4-door wagon style in 1959. And don't call this a country squire. This is the country sedan.
Yeah, they didn't call it a wagon. The base model was the ranch wagon. This, the country sedan, was the mid-level model with a whole lot of stainless trim down the side. This one's been upgraded with aftermarket wheels and tires and different interior. The Country Squire, with all of that faux wood grain trim, would be the top of the line wagon. Ford, they were pretty much the wagon master in the late 50s, early 60s. Later than this, they invented the magic door tailgate that opened 3 different ways. But plenty of room for the whole family in here when you got the 3-seat version. This one's had modern paint. It's had an upholstery replacement. But if we can get a look at the steering wheel and the size of it, we will when it stops down the ramp. I like about a 14-inch wheel in today's modern cars, all of which have power steering. That's got to be 18 to 20 inches in diameter, that steering wheel, because, you know, back in this days, power steering was still quite a luxury. A lot of these were arm twisters with manual steering boxes. And look at that. Rick, that's got to be an 18 to 20-inch diameter wheel.
To your point, that's what it took, you know, a little extra muscle to get that car turning. You know, once you were turning, you were okay, but you had to get it going. So people always look at those big steering wheels and wonder why. Mike's explanation is absolutely dead on. By the way, one of the other things I love about this car, according to the consignor, it has the original tube radio. Not transistors, tubes in this thing. And it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $23,000. You'll notice that gentleman that was in the lower right, he's running the internet bidding. And we have people who make arrangements in advance to be an internet bidder. And as a result, that one just sold. And we don't know where. And with that, we're going to check in with April Rose.
Barrett-Jackson is a fantastic event to come out, spend the entire day checking out these beautiful cars. I got this one right here. But here's the thing. My guy, Larry Webster, editor-in-chief, Hagerty Magazine, Hagerty's huge mover and shaker in the car world. He's a big deal. He's been eyeing this 40th anniversary Corvette a lot, and there's something really special under the hood.
Yeah, I love the story of this car for what's under the hood. Of course, it's got a Chevy V8 engine, but you got to remember a few years before this car, the fastest Corvette ever came out, called the ZR1. General Motors went to England and Lotus to have that engine built, a double overcam engine. So the GM engineers back in Detroit were like, whoa,
right?
We can do better. And so they came out, they redesigned the small block V8 with the push rods. And they came out with this engine, the LT1. It was a year before this car came out. This is 300 horsepower. And since it was simpler and lighter than the ZR1, the performance difference wasn't that great. So this totally transformed the base Corvettes, and it became really the pathway that led us to the LS1 engine.
Yeah, we finally got some real horsepower here. And I love this full clamshell hood, the biggest production fiberglass piece that GM ever built. And of course, the headlights, they pop up in a circle. Can you press that button? Look at that, such a cool feature. Now, of course, this is the anniversary edition, ruby red on the top, the interior and exterior. Are you familiar with the 40th wedding anniversary and what color that is?
Is it ruby red?
It is ruby red because Corvette is very romantic with their cars. And of course, you love this ride.
Well, it's just such a great story about, you know, the pride that engineers will have in making something like a performance car, especially the Corvette, and they want it to be done in Detroit, and they did it.
They did it, and it's gorgeous. And Rick, it is coming your way.
Look forward to it. Yeah, very nice. And I love the colors as well, ruby red. And now we got a 1981 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. This is the Daytona Pace Car Edition.
Now this one is pretty well loaded up with the Recaro bucket seats. They were an expensive option. Leather-wrapped wheel, engine turn dash, 4.9 liter turbocharged V8 and automatic transmission.
Richard Petty, the winner of the 1981 Daytona 500. So this is the car that he would have been following around during the course of the day.
And what was he driving? We're going to see one replicating it a little later on. Buick Regal.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but there's going to be a Petty replica car that'll be up on the block soon, and it's pretty creative. All right, El Camino fans, we have plenty of them on our crew, and this one's a 1965 edition.
Just sold one of mine, Rick. I sold the Gen 7. It was just one of those trucks that I was not going to get to rest them out it the way I wanted. But my 60, the one that Patrick Pogrant did, that one is a keeper. Here we've got a small block, custom small block with headers, aftermarket aluminum alloy intake manifold, 4-barrel carb, Edelbrock dress-up parts. Pretty sharp there. Aluminum heads as well. Power steering, power brakes. Marina blue was a good mid-60s Chevy color. This one has been treated to later bucket seats and console. I think some Firebird might have given up that console. And one particular treatment that I love on El Caminos and Rancheros. Look at the bed finish. SEM and other companies make tintable bed liner, spray-on bed liner, but instead of the usual satin, soon-to-be flat black, this is tinted to match the exterior color. So it's a great protective cover coating for the inside of this bed, meaning you can haul with this as well as just kind of drive around and have fun. Well done.
Well, I still have my 7th gen, and to be honest with you, I use it all the time. I take it to Home Depot, haul things around with it. It works great. It's a lot of fun. You know, it's interesting to think that it was Ford that came out with this concept in the late 50s, you know, with the idea of having that utility vehicle, that sedan turned into a truck. And Chevy followed, and Ford had the Ranchero, and Chevy's thinking, how should we copy that? We'll call it the El Camino. So they stuck in that Spanish style.
And when they did for 59 and 60, it was a big vehicle, but with a very small bed. And Ford ate their lunch with the Falcon Ranchero. This panel here is removable. You see it screwed in because this is built on the bones of the 2-door station wagon, and that would have been the footwell for the back seat in the 2-door wagon, not needed with this El Camino.
Some people refer to that as the smuggler's hole because you could stick little things down in there. $18,500 for that 1965 El Camino. Plenty of folks here to watch all the cars crossing the block, and pretty soon they're going to see a 1963 Chevy 2 Nova SS convertible. I like this 6-cylinder engine, very original, that Power Glide automatic transmission. We'll see it very soon. Well, back here at Columbus, guess what? We got a new top sale of the day. This 1954 Ford F-100 pickup truck with a 239 cubic inch Y-block V8 just sold. The hammered price, $35,000. That beats that other 1947 Ford Deluxe that sold earlier in our day. Up on the block right now, a 1974 Volkswagen Beetle Custom.
Love the LED headlights that they put into this one. Some modern paint. And here we are at 1974. So the bolt-on luggage rack has been added. It tightens through these turnbuckle here in the center post and otherwise sits on the drip rail. Kind of neat. The interior is done in a 2-tone vinyl. There is a Wolfsburg steering wheel in leather trim, and gauges added in the glove box. White wheels to go along with the 2-tone upholstery. Really great paint on this. The larger taillights that came along after 67. And look at that engine bay, Rick. That's about as clean as you're going to see.
Yeah, definitely a custom. And custom not just because the engine has been redone. This is really kind of a, you know, car hiding in plain sight. This is a 1974. It should have the squared off bumpers. What they've done is they've taken the older style bumpers, the older style taillights. It should have those bigger, rounder taillights on the back, together with the bumper up front, and they've made it look like a car from the 1960s, say pre-67. And instead, this is a 74, once again, hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, of course, the big windows and windshield are a giveaway, but here are these very small turn signals that sat on top of the fender and the covered headlights from the 50s and early 60s. That little gill sits there because the horn sits behind it. Where's the gas cap, you ask? Well, it's underneath the... you can't call it a hood. I guess you call it a frunk in Porsches now, like the Boxster that have a front as well as a rear storage compartment. But I like the customization, I like what they've done here. And I think a nice value for the money spent.
You know, impressive to realize that this body design actually goes back to the 1930s. That's when they first came out with it. Now, it didn't really go into production until after World War II. Then in the 1950s, it became the car that helped, Volkswagen come out of World War II and reestablish itself. Interesting story, Ford actually had the ability, the option to purchase Volkswagen after World War II. Ford said, nah, I don't want that little thing. We're not going to go that way. As a result, a British major managed to help resurrect the factory, and Volkswagen became the company that we know today. $17,000 for that custom 1974 VW Beetle. All right, every day before the car sale, we have a lot of great automobilia that crosses the block. So we're going to check in with Rory Brinkman, who has some interesting things that he wants to preview.
Several longtime collections will be crossing the block and selling at no reserve. Most notably, we'll be selling the Gary Ennis Automobilia Collection. It's going to be quite the offering with everything from vintage kiddie rides, beautifully restored soda machines, tin, neon, and porcelain signs, as well as gas globes and pieces of Americana. Selling no reserve is this amazing custom-crafted 1961 coin-operated Corvette kiddie ride. A very high-end restoration which features an upholstered interior, wooden steering wheel, beautiful automotive-grade paint finish, working lights, and also features a variable speed shifter so you can actually control the speed of the ride. Gas pump globes continue their rise in popularity, and the Columbus offering represents a wonderful opportunity for the beginner collector to the advanced. This collection has a lot of diversity to it, like 1930s Airway with Ethel. Here's a wonderful marathon globe from the 1940s with the Marathon Runner. You have Sinclair Aircraft, Richfield Oil, Around the World Gasoline from National Refining with the transportation graphics, Indian Gas from the 1930s, which was Texaco Havoline. You have Old Lucky Shamrock with the Cloverleaf Traffic, Imperial Refineries from the late 1950s, really a neat globe, Skelly Oil, Sunland, and more. Stunning and superlative is how I would describe this beautiful Standard Oil Gold Crown visible gas pump. Manufactured as a Fry Model 17 visible gas pump in 1924 by the Guaranteed Liquid Measuring Company of Rochester, Pennsylvania. This is a magnificent example that's underwent an outstanding restoration. One other item to note, the world record for a gas pump was set at the Barrett-Jackson Las Vegas 2023 auction, and it was a Mae West gas pump. The Barrett-Jackson inaugural 2026 Columbus auction is going to be amazing.
Yeah, once again, all of that sells before the cars sell every single day. My favorite thing was that Corvette kiddie car, the ride, with an actual shifter where you could control the speed of the ride. What a great, great opportunity. You saw that GTO rolling by right there. That just crossed the block and sold to a new owner. And meanwhile, we got a 1987 Firebird Trans Am GTA up on the block.
Well, the name of this car is very interesting to the conversation we had earlier with Larry Webster. This car was presented to Pontiac management as the next GTO and was the subject of great debate. And finally, it took the head of the division to say, no, we're going to save that name for something really, really special, more like the original GTO. And they decided to call this one the GTA. GT America, perhaps, but this was the top-of-the-line Trans Am.
It is really cool and something sorely needed with this generation Trans Am, some decent performance. I think a little over 200 horsepower versus 140 with the Trans Am V8 when it came out, which is it's hard to believe how bad it was in the early 80s as far as emissions restrictions and horsepower getting brought from cars. You also got the special wheels on the GTA. You can see that gold pattern there, and this one looks like super clean actually.
Now, they made 11,000 of these. So as a submodel, it is not particularly rare. But again, it's the highest spec Trans Am you could get. Yep, automatic transmission as they had. These BBS or Epsilon looking wheels. They look like the Epsilon Southern Ways wheels. We'd call that a basket design of that center. And I believe these are single piece, not a three-piece bolted together wheel, but lighter than what you would have had. Yeah, very sharp, very kind of IMSA style presentation for your V8 Trans Am.
2 full decades into the Firebird at this point. First came out in 1967, so really you could say this is the beginning of the 3rd decade. Boy, pretty significant changes between that original 67 and this one right here. Although they were both still based on that Camaro kind of chassis. $25,000. That's the price for this 1987 Firebird Trans Am GTA, that 5.7-liter V8 engine, fuel injection, 4-wheel disc brakes. But we have so many more interesting cars that'll be crossing the block over the course of the next couple days. So stick around. A lot of good stuff yet to come. Back here in Columbus, up on the block right now, something big and bulky, a 2007 AM General Humvee Custom.
This started life as a military Humvee, not a Hummer, but you can tell that by the VIN itself. It doesn't have a 17-digit VIN rather than a serial number for the military. But you can see these big hooks here on the hood. You can grab these and pick it up with a helicopter, pick it up off the ground with the hooks in the back. On this side is the snorkel intake for the diesel engine. You can see this one has open doors, and everything inside and out has been Rhino-Lite on this one for extra toughness. They're tough from the factory, really thick aluminum bodies that don't rust, but this one beefed up even more.
Yeah, a little earlier we had an H2 cross the block, and essentially that is a civilian vehicle, based off a 3/4-ton pickup truck. This is an actual military spec Humvee that has now been sold into the aftermarket. It's been customized to look a little different than it would have in its military trim.
They did make civilian Hummers of this full-size version, and they are very desirable by this year. 2007, 2008, they were putting Duramax engines in them, and we've seen $250,000 and up for those. The military versions obviously stripped down, no luxury conveniences at all. They're not legal in some states either. You can't register and tag a Hummer in some states, so that's what holds this one back. But otherwise, it looks like a pretty solid example. The aftermarket wheels are huge, really, to match the Hummer. I like it.
Yeah, the coating on the top, that Kevlar roof, boy, everything is made to look like this could go just about anywhere and do just about anything. You've got to remember, there you see the turret-style roof that they've got where you could put a turret gun. I think the turret days are probably long gone for this vehicle. $22,500 to somebody up in the skybox. All right, from a 2007 massive Humvee to a 1990 Mustang GT convertible.
The Fox Body 5.0 that Vanilla Ice was rapping about back in the day. Here it is, and this one treated to a very nice, I would say almost restoration as far as the new headlights. A beautiful paint job that's nicer than factory. Looks like the seats have been reupholstered as well with real or at least higher quality leather. So a lot of nice stuff done to this one, including the modern SVT style wheels from like a newer Mustang. It says SVE on them, but they look like something from a couple days newer as far as finding on Mustangs. A lot of nice stuff here.
Yeah, and I go back to it. If you're somebody who grew up during the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, this was a fun car. This was a car that everybody enjoyed. They came out with the Fox Body Mustang, I think in 1979, ran all the way up through 93 or so. This was the body that came out at about 1987. A little blockier look to it, but actually a little bit more aerodynamic than the previous version.
Pretty respectable money for a Fox Body convertible automatic, but it's easy to see why, considering how nice everything was done here. It looks like a new top as well, so pretty much everything new or new looking on this one. And of course now the Fox Body, 40 years old or going on at this point, so hard to find them like this. Very few would invest this level into high quality repaint or restoration, since you still can find low mileage ones, but obviously the price pretty respectable on this one.
Yeah, according to the consignor, while there's a lot of custom work elsewhere, the engine has been untouched. And I think back then it was running probably 225 horsepower, so respectable, a lot of fun for its era. The hammer's up, Is he going to bring it down? Shane Ratcliffe says, yep, I got it, $25,000. They're waiting to see if one more bidder wanted to come in, but the answer was no, and so as a result, they market sold $25,000 here at Barrett-Jackson. Well, up behind it, we're going to stay in the red mode. We're also going to stay in the Ford mode. Yeah, something completely different. A 1947 Ford custom cab-over engine hauler.
Once again, another beautiful red paint job on this thing as far as the quality of the restoration. You can see the Greyhound hood ornament on the short nose here because this is the cab over. But we have a 350 cubic inch V8 underhood, I imagine, from a Chevy. But this is another thing where you can haul whatever you buy home. So you can buy this and whatever else. You have the sort of ramp in the back. You can winch it up. And I imagine this thing could drive cross-country home but have all that vintage look.
You know, the idea for the cab over, I believe, stretched back to the 30s when the idea was that they could move the cab engine, the cab forward, so the driver was sitting over the engine. That's why it's called a cab over. So that they could have a long bed in the back and still live within certain length restrictions that some of the states had in terms of what was considered a commercial vehicle. So the idea of moving the driver forward, having it over the engine, was designed to kind of skirt the rules.
Nicely upgraded the interior as far as more comfortable buckets than you would have found back in 1947. You can see these cowl vents here. These would pop up to get fresh air inside of the cabin. It looks like the cooling's been upgraded as well. I see a condenser in the front, so maybe AC on this thing, which would be nice. So you have that vintage look, but I think a lot of modern convenience underneath.
Love the graphics. I don't know anything about Downtown Motors. Says Canton, Ohio. I love that GL6 phone number. You know, back in the days when you would have some kind of exchange, you'd have a word or a couple of letters that were associated with it. Richmond 9 is the number I always remember when I was growing up in Los Angeles. But once again, great color, the cab overlook, solid vehicle.
Great feature right here in the bed. In case the thing came loose in an accident, you have this brace to the frame. That way, if the car goes flying forward, it doesn't take the cab off the cab over with the driver inside of it. So important safety feature there.
Tell you what a great combo this would be. You know, our number 2 sale of the day is a 1947 Ford Deluxe. How about putting it on top of this 1947 Ford cab over that just sold for the exact same price. They both sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $30,000. Let's check in with April Rose.
Here's what I've been missing all my life. 1958 BMW Isetta, 0 to 60, probably never. Top speed, 53. If you're lucky, it's got 13 horsepower, but that doesn't matter because it is the cutest car ever made. Have you ever entered a car through the front? Yes, the front opens up. You sort of have a latch, like a refrigerator latch, to open it up. Take a look inside. There's actually a lot of room in there. A back shelf up top for storage. You got the soft top that you can pull off. Maybe you're a little tall. Your head can pop out right there. You don't want to mess up your hair, so it sticks up right there. Come on back here. We got the engine. It's a 289 single cylinder engine. Very cool gauges right there. Not gauges, those are taillights, so pop-ups, the styled gauges. And it has 4 wheels. You can see, not 3, some of them are 3. This one has the additional 4. They're a little tighter in the back. That's where all the power comes from, and the steering is up front. This is such a cool ride. It is so sweet. Rick, I know you have one. Do you drive it? Do you have fun driving it? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, right now it's in my garage. I got to fix a little fuel leak because, you know, trying to find someone to work on these is pretty complicated unless you happen to know somebody. And mine looks exactly like that one. Same red and white interior. They're a lot of fun. When you take them to a car show, you're always a big hit. Right now, another Fox Body Mustang, this one from 1992.
A few years newer and a coupe, but it's about to match the price of that convertible that was a crazy restoration. This one looks a lot more stock, untouched, and low mileage, at least the stock original interior. If it hasn't been repainted, it's a very nice original paint job on this one, but not over the top like we saw the convertible.
Yeah, well options. It's got air conditioning, power steering, power brakes, cruise control, and of course that dual exhaust. And as I mentioned, probably running 225 horsepower, which doesn't seem like a lot today, but you got to remember we were just coming out of the doldrums. So that was solid GT performance. $24,500. That's what it takes to buy that 1992 Mustang GT. A little while ago, we previewed a 1963 Chevy Nova SS convertible, and it's up on the block right now.
The baby Chevy as far as the sedan goes, and it's hard to believe that this was the smallest of the bunch because it's already pretty large, but that's where people started to do, performance versions. So, yeah, the Nova, the Chevy Tour, the Nova SS, so one of the first little breaths of the performance era of the 1960s right here. Pretty special.
Yeah, this was the second year for this car, and in many ways Chevrolet was looking at what Ford was doing. Ford had brought out the Falcon, and they're like, wait a minute, we need a compact car. Now you look at Chevrolet in the 1950s, when you think of, that Tri-5 Chevy, the only vehicle they offered from a, standard family perspective was a standard Chevrolet. They didn't have a midsize, they didn't have a compact car. Yeah, they had the Corvette, but this was, the regular Chevy. By this time, now they're saying, okay, we need a compact car. The next year, they would come out with the Chevelle, having a mid-size car. And suddenly, just a decade later, you have three different concepts of how you wanted to do full-size, mid-size, or the compacts like this.
Looks like original bright work on this one, definitely a repaint, but a lot of originality with this one, including under hood. Somebody resisted the temptation for a lot of years to V8 swap this thing, so it still has the inline six under the hood, the more thrifty, economical motor in this Nova. Maybe we'll see it in a few years with an LS swap.
According to the consignor, this is a legitimate SS that was built during 1963. Now, you have to remember, SS wasn't always just a performance perspective. Sometimes it was also, the appearance package, which is what you had here because you have that 6-cylinder engine under the hood. I think only about 5,500 Nova SS convertibles were made back in 1963. Now, this is a fun car, but I guess what? We're starting to get into solid money for this. $26,000 is what this is going to sell for this 1963 Chevy 2 Nova SS with that 6-cylinder engine and a Power Glide transmission. Boy, you got to love it. With the white exterior, the red interior. I mean, why not? A lot of Nova fans out there, and I can understand why. Plenty of Corvette fans as well, and that's one car we'll see crossing the block in the next couple days here in Columbus. Welcome back to Columbus, the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction out on the McGuire staging lanes. Those are the cars. They're queuing up, getting ready to cross the block. And boy, variety has been the name of the game today. All kinds of fun stuff crossing the block. Like that Plymouth Roadrunner with that big engine sitting right there. It's like a Ford sitting right behind it. We got maybe a Jeep in front of it. Once again, all those will be crossing the block very soon. Right now, we got a 1977 Cadillac Eldorado.
You talk about large and in charge. This has got to be the love boat of personal luxury cars. Look at how big that bumper and grille is. Resplendent in red with a matching interior. It has a dash cover, probably hiding some cracks in the dash, indicating that this car lived its life in the Sun Belt. Half vinyl top in white. Recent repaint. Sharp, and probably cheap by the pound, but boy, is this thing long.
They did do some downsizing in 1977, Mike, believe it or not. Not with the body, but with the engine. 1976, last year, the 500 cubic inch V8, the largest ever offered in a Cadillac car. This one just a mere 425 cubic inches. Just a puny little engine under there.
Yeah, downsizing. What did they make the mirrors smaller? There is nothing small about this. You got a split bench up front and a seat wide enough for 3 in the back. And I like that this is a Sunbelt car, because here in Ohio, and anybody who drove down from Michigan or Pennsylvania or New England, I mean, this is the Rust Belt. Cars just rust away. So to find a dry car, especially one here with a nice fresh repaint, I would think the bidders would respond.
And these were popular in the Rust Belt where there were winters because this is a front-wheel drive platform. So you had much better snow traction, made for a much roomier interior as well because you don't have that hump for the drive shaft, you know, going back to a rear differential. So Mike's right. Cool to see one like this.
Well, second to the last year of the massive Eldorado. In 1979, they'd go to a much smaller version. That one just sold here at Barrett-Jackson. All right, don't forget, go to barrett-jackson.com. You can see the entire list of cars. We call it the docket, but the docket of list of cars that will be crossing the block over the course of the next couple of days. It's always fun to play a game, you know, take a look and think, what would that car sell for? Or an even better game, do I want to own that car? Maybe, you know, sign up to become a bidder here at Barrett-Jackson. 1977 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am up on the block.
Very cool, of course, that iconic cat eye nose on the front that came out in 1977, a la Smokey and the Bandit. But this one, they resisted the urge to make it a Bandit car. A lot more different colors in 1977, because that's when the movie came out. But the 78s, that's why you see so many black ones, because by the time people were buying them, you're in the 1978s. One difference I see, though, are the wheels. These aren't the snowflake wheels you would have gotten from the factory, some sort of period aftermarket, and they say Carroll Shelby wheels on them, so interesting.
Yeah, Carroll had a wheel division. He bought a lot of wheel molds from American Racing Equipment, including the Le Mans and the Libra, and of course these. And he had quite a wheel business going there for quite a while in Southern California. Notice how the orange pinstripes, and there is a lot of pinstriping tape on this car. They're almost tone on tone with the red exterior kind of hiding in plain sight there. Sharp look.
No T-tops on this one either. Of course, Smokey and the Bandit made that very popular, but they leak, they rattle, they fly off if you don't have them secured. So I personally like the hardtop versions of these, even though it's a little harder to find, especially in a Trans Am.
Well, I like the fact we see so many of these done in the Smokey, you know, the Bandit, the black and gold colors. They're great looking, but it's nice to see one in red.
So when I lived in Detroit, about 6 years after these were new, my roommate Jim Holman, when I first moved up there, he had a Trans Am like this with T-tops. Woke up one morning in the midst of a horrible downpour, and he thought, well, geez, you know, the interior might be a little wet. It sure was. Somebody had stolen his T-tops the night before.
Yeah, just slightly so. $20,000 for that 1977 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and I even love the color. Awful lot to like here in Columbus, Ohio. Not just great scenery, but there's also a great car culture. All kinds of folks that enjoy their automobiles, and guess what? An awful lot of them have showed up out here at the Ohio Expo Center and Fairgrounds for the very first Barrett-Jackson collector car auction. Up on the block now, that's a car that April Rose and Larry Webster previewed just a little while ago, a 1993 Corvette 40th anniversary.
Triple Ruby. It figures that April would know what the stone or the gift is for the 40th anniversary. I had no clue. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's Ruby. And here it is with the Cuisinart wheels. But otherwise, everything else is Ruby colored. And this was kind of a limited edition, but not really. A lot of Corvettes were built with the anniversary package treatment and all the Ruby accents and the badging. This is one of over 2,000 of them.
Somebody thought this was going to be collectible and put it away. Only 13,000 miles on the odometer, and it definitely shows it. Amazing condition in and out. And the C4 Corvette got some great performance around this year with the LT1 V8 under the hood. The automatic transmission, that's the only thing I'd change. A manual transmission would be great in this. Otherwise, I love the Triple Ruby.
Yeah, these things were available with a great 6-speed manual transmission with overdrive on the top 2 gears, and when thus equipped, was capable of almost 30 miles per gallon at highway speeds.
I'm working the pop-up headlights here. This is very cool how they do this with the C4 Corvette. A full flip. Pretty fun.
Kind of a shame that flip-up headlights went away. And they did for 2 reasons. Legislation saying they were a pedestrian hazard, and also aerodynamics.
$25,500 for that 1993 Corvette Ruby Red Anniversary Edition, one of just 2,043 that were built that year. Moving along, how about a 2002 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am?
The final year of the Trans Am, the end of the Trans Am with the 4th generation LS engine under the hood. Pop-up headlights on this one as well. Might as well do it. Why not? There you go. More traditional pop-up headlights with this one. But key difference on this one, it doesn't have the hood ram air intake. They didn't take that option, which makes me wonder it probably doesn't have the WS6 package as well. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the description, so it's very unusual actually to see a Trans Am without that package, but I guess it does make it a little more elegant.
Yeah, to my eye, it looks better without the scoops up on the hood. I kind of like the style a little better. These things were heavily styled. A lot of folks called the add-on rocker panels in plastic and that big rubber nose Tupperware, kind of derisively, but you know, that was the styling. That's the way it was back then.
We were talking about that 77 earlier not having T-tops. Well, this one does, but by 2002, they had refined it quite a bit. You weren't getting rained on with the T-tops on, you know, if it was raining outside. So they did a good job as far as securing them as well. And yeah, I don't think it's any harm actually to have the T-tops. It doesn't. I would definitely get them with that. But this one looks incredibly well preserved as well. Under 30,000 miles on this thing, so pretty low mileage.
Now, when you add the big wing, you can't see the third center-mounted, high-mounted brake light if it's in the back window, so they built it into the wing. Pretty sharp.
Well, less than 30,000 miles, and it just sold for $23,000 here at Barrett-Jackson for that 2002 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. That 5.7-liter engine, way it goes. All right, let's check in with Tyler and April, who want to preview a car that we're going to see this weekend.
Coming to the Columbus 2026 auction is this car right here, lot 738, a 1968 Ford Mustang Eleanor, licensed 25th anniversary edition, and it's hard to believe it's been 25 years since the Gone in 60 Seconds film. It is so good.
Now, it's a certified Eleanor build, not a tribute edition. I gotta show you inside because that is the Go Baby Go button. You got your nitrous switch, you got modern bucket seats, that beautiful Hurst shifter, wood wheel. I mean, everything has been gone through. This is a full restoration. It's gorgeous.
And under the hood, it has been massively upgraded. Come take a look at this, April. So we have...
It wasn't born like this.
No, definitely not. It's a 5-liter Coyote V8, so a modern 5.0 engine, but it does have the classic sort of Stax injection here, which is really cool. The quality of this thing, everything inside and out, is just incredible.
It's also got complete build book, 150 photos, all the restoration photos, a 30 by 40 inch professionally assembled Gone in 60 Seconds framed presentation of the official poster and signed photos from the cast members, from Nicolas Cage and Miss Jolie herself. That's kind of the deal.
And the other big deal, April, this is selling no reserve, so you can bring this home.
If you have a bidder's pass, or just borrow Tyler's.
Well, just for the record, you need a bidder's pass and the ability to write the check. So those two things have to go together in tandem. That is one of the cars we'll see crossing the block on Saturday, that Eleanor.
And my bidder's pass, you wouldn't be able to cash the check. It wouldn't work.
Well, we could try. 2013 Mercedes-Benz E550 just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $34,000, meaning that is now the #2 sale of the day.
And that despite an accident in its vehicle history report. So, well done.
All right, no shortage of Firebirds crossing the block today, and I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy this Firebird. Of course, this one's a 1979 Trans Am Custom.
Well, it sure doesn't look the part, and I love what they've done here. The Gen 2 Firebird debuted in 1970, and this is a 1970 nose. To me, this is far more attractive than the 4 rectangular headlight nose this was born with for 1979. I think this gives this Firebird a great retro vintage look.
And it appears they made the shaker hood functional on this one. It looks like it's going in. No, but it's still fixed to the hood now, so it looks like a shaker hood, but no, it's still attached to the hood rather than the engine. But at least there's a hole in there to feed air inside, so it is functional in that sense. But yeah, very interesting here.
This second-gen body carried through 1981, so this is a 79, but I really love having the 1970 front clip put on it during its 2015 restoration.
The rear is very different. It is not 1970, it is not 1979. It is somebody's totally custom creation where they just put one sort of strip along the back. I guess there's the pop out for the fuel there in the middle, and then the bumper delete. So very custom in the back. The spoiler looks almost Camaro, and the Trans Am, it would have been, you know, much more exaggerated NASCAR style.
Yeah, it is. You're right, Tyler. This was the 1970 and 71 low one-piece spoiler that was replaced by a three-piece spoiler when they found out this didn't provide any add-on downforce for the Trans Am race cars.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson, all that custom work for $26,000. Very interesting build. A 1979 that looks like a 1970 when it's driving towards you. No shortage of variety here. The only question is, what do you want? Because it seems like there's just about one of everything for your automotive taste. Convertible, hardtops, foreign, American. It's all here. Back here in Columbus, the very first time we've ever been here in the Midwest, enjoying our stay in Ohio. Today's day one of the three-day auction, and of course you see that great big truck crossing the block, that 1978 Ford F-100 that just sold. And you see the prices of the last three vehicles before that sold, including that great 57 Porsche 356 replica, sold for $33,000. Up on the block now, this is a 1967 Plymouth Belvedere 2 convertible, but yeah, one quick glance and you know there's something custom about this.
Oh boy, somebody had some fun building this. Look, they left a little South Park sticker. Is that Cartman?
Cartman, yes.
Yeah, and you got an SSI blower, big wide blower belt there, big dual Edelbrock, formerly Carter carburetors on a Y-end manifold. This started out as just a grocery getter 318.
It is funny to see it on a 318 where the blower and the intake's probably taller than the block itself, but it does look really cool. It looks like they added some power brakes as well, so you can stop as fast as it goes. But otherwise, yeah, at some point this is probably just, you know, a stock, you know, ho-hum restoration where somebody went and took it to this crazy level, and it's hilarious. It's amazing.
Well, this thing was road hard and worn out. It had over 100,000 miles on the clock when they went to this restoration. I guess this is the danger of bringing a car that is so highly modified to auction. You have to hope at least two of the bidders share your vision.
I'm curious about the stock cooling on this one. As far as it looks like the stock radiator, that's enough to handle all this. But otherwise, I mean, everything looks pretty good here. Automatic transmission, once again, is the transmission stock to handle all that power. So there's a few questions here, but overall, there's some cool stuff.
All right, Larry Webster joins us up here on the block. What do you think?
Yeah, you hear me now? Yeah, I like a good blower, for sure. Can you hear me? There we go.
$26,000 for that 67 Belvedere 2 with that 318 engine and that massive supercharger sticking out the top. There's a reason there's no hood on that thing. All right, mid-60s, all kinds of stuff that was rolling across the showrooms back then, like this 1964 Ford Galaxy 500 XL.
Ford had so many model names back then. You could get a custom, you could get a custom 500, you could get a Galaxy, you could get a Galaxy 500, or you could get a Galaxy 500 XL, which this is the very top trim level. And boy, that aqua almost looks a little like Porsche Miami Blue. That is bright.
It is beautiful. I'm tempted to yank the hood off this one and put another blower on it, sticking all the way out, kind of a similar vein. This one looks
I like
very
this
high-quality restoration. Yeah.
this tight line all the way down the side. It was like in the 60s. Some of the 50s stuff finally got to get restraint back. Very Mad Men-esque.
390 cubic inch V8 under hood, white vinyl top, white vinyl upholstery, black carpets and dash, automatic transmission with it. Semi-fastback styling for this two-door hardtop, which made it a little more efficient on the high banks of, say, Charlotte, Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega.
All right, so here's the question. What did XL stand for back then? I've seen various things, but my understanding is the original literature stood for extra lively. Okay.
Yeah, why not, right? I'll go with that.
According to Consigno, this only has 51,800 original miles on the odometer.
Well, Ford had to keep up with Chevrolet because Chevrolet had the SS, the Super Sport, you know, and different variations all the way up to and on the Impala. You can get an Impala SS, so why not an XL?
Yeah, this one looks like it's got really great, like, nicely preserved bodywork, great paint. I mean, it's one of the better examples I've ever seen.
Fender skirts, we don't see those often.
Well, to your point, Mike, you know, the SS worked. XL, yeah, just didn't really stick in terms of people's minds, I think, for what was
Well,
going
it
on.
did if you were a Ford guy.
I'm talking about all those other people. All right, away it goes to a new owner. And how about a 1968 Cadillac DeVille convertible?
Yeah, the fins were vestigial by this time. They were all but gone. And 67 and 8, they kind of canted the headlights a little more forward, give it a little more forward look. A very Eldorado-esque hood line at the front. And 75,000 miles is not many for a car of this vintage.
Pretty impressive as far as the preservation goes. One repaint on this one, but if you look inside, it is the original interior, and it's actually aged pretty well. You see a little bit of wear and tear on the inside as far as just some minor hairline cracks and things, but overall, really impressive, the original interior. Obviously, 75,000 original miles. It must have been preserved and not parked with the top down for long periods.
Well,
I mean, when I see these things, all I think about is just the weight of the bodywork. Imagine lifting that hood off of the stamping press, 60 times an hour. Oh my gosh, huge car.
Well, guess what? This is now the #1 sale of the day. It's at $40,000, blowing past that 54 Ford F100, sold a little bit earlier. So everybody seems to like this thing.
I think a lot of that speaks to where we are, kind of in the heart of not just agriculture, but manufacturing in the United States. My granddad supervised a fleet of salesmen, and every 2 years, he made sure he bought himself or leased a new Cadillac because that was a sign of success, in areas of manufacturing. And so these sold very well, and evidently there's bidders out in the crowd today that have fond memories of that era, and somebody's going to get themselves a nice car.
Yeah, for $40,000 right now, that's the #1 sale of the day. That, length was nearly 225 inches, 129-inch wheelbase. And I would have thought the color would have held it back a little bit, but apparently not. Everybody loves it. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we're going to see a 1979 International Scout. It's a travel top crossing the block. It's got a rebuilt 345 cubic inch V8 Edelbrock carb. We'll see it very soon. Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio, the very first Barrett-Jackson collector car auction here in the Heartland. And boy, what a fun day we've been having so far. Plenty of interesting cars crossing the block, all kinds of things you'd enjoy taking home and showing folks, like an Edsel. That'll be up here very soon. And right now, a solid bidding for this 1971 Chevy Nova Custom.
So if you like doing your driving a quarter mile at a time, or maybe your playground is stoplight to stoplight, this might be your weapon of choice. The Nova would be the lightest Chevrolet that could carry that 396 cubic inch big block. A Chevelle might have a full frame, but I think you'd take the lower weight out of this one for the Stoplight Grand Prix.
Lighter, but they threw the big block in the front, the 396.
$28,000, quarter mile at a time for that 1971 Chevrolet Nova, and she looks pretty excited. Congratulations to those folks taking home a brand new car.
All right, Rick, we're going to play Ask the Man Who Owns One. Would you come to the block, please?
All right. So the next car up on the block is a 1958 BMW Isetta.
Because you are the only member of the Barrett Jackson broadcast team, past, present, or certainly in the future, to have owned and still own one of these.
Yeah, when we talk about El Camino, just about everybody's had one of those, right, on our team. But yeah, Izettas are fun. And so the story is, when I was in high school, my high school principal had one of these, and it was the unofficial school mascot. He would take it to all the football games and everything. And so I grew up knowing about these, but I was never obsessed with them. I mean, I like cars for two reasons, beauty and speed, and this has neither. But I bought one 40 years later because I bought it from the principal, the exact car that used to be at my high school. And so now I'm the keeper of the flame. And mine looks exactly like this. It's the same red on the outside, red and white inside. And of course, this has a 298cc engine. And the great story is this is the car that actually saved BMW. You know, in the mid-50s, they were running short on money. They were building some amazing cars like the 507, but nobody was buying them. They built 160,000 of these Izettas, enough money to keep BMW afloat.
So, Rick, do you take yours to your high school reunion every 10 years? Is it a thing when it shows up? Other than you, of course. You
know, our high school had a 100th anniversary, and I was invited. No, let me phrase it back. The car was invited. I went along with the car, was able to do it. At our football games, every time we'd score a touchdown, he'd pop a cheerleader out the top and drive around the track. So at the football game for that homecoming event, I drove around the track every time we scored a touchdown, and my wife waved the school flag.
What do you think, Larry? I don't think there's anybody more passionate about Izettas than Rick.
I mean, I knew I was going to learn a lot today. I didn't know I was going to learn all that. Thank you, Rick.
Well, you just learned that they sell for $25,000 here at Barrett Jackson. I've seen the record, I think, for one of these is up around $80,000. But they're a lot of fun. Like I say, you take them to a car show, everybody wants to sit in it. 2008 Ford Mustang GT up on the block.
Wow, this has 86 original miles on the odometer. It is brand new.
Well, and these S197s, I think, are really coming back. I mean, they have that really great retro look that evokes all the original Mustang, but kind of modernized. And a lot of parts are available for these, so you can really make them hustle.
So window sticker is still there. The shipping instructions still here on the windshield in grease pencil.
Yeah, $28,225 the price, and it had the interior upgrade package of $460. That was the only option on this one. But what I like is the manual transmission. So you have the V8 with the manual. This is the one to have the most fun with. Of course, in 2008, you had the GT 500 as well. We see plenty of those put away, but not the Mustang GT with no miles on it.
Yeah, those things, they are really wonderful to drive. Like in terms of the handling and the ride and all the balance, the S197s really took a big leap, even though, you remember, it was supposed to be an independent rear suspension, but at the last minute they kept the solid rear axle. So they're really good on the drag strip too.
Yeah, they kept the solid rear axle for another decade. It took them a while to finally get out of that. And to your point, Larry, I really love the retro styling on this. I think this, of all the cars, nailed it the best. Looks like that 67, 68.
Yeah, and for a while they looked kind of goofy, but just in the past couple of years that I've been seeing them, I'm like, oh wow, that was really like a well-designed car.
Road racer Tommy Kendall and I did the reveal for this, the public reveal of this car in an airplane hangar at the Santa Monica Airport, and they invited owners of at least one Mustang from every model year leading up to it. And when all those Mustang owners saw this with all the retro styling touches, wow, they're over the moon.
30 grand is about what a GT 500 Shelby would sell for in this year if it had some miles on it, maybe 40, 50,000 miles. So this one being under 100 original miles on it. Obviously the price, this is a collector quality GT. Put it away.
A brand new 2008 Mustang GT selling here at Barrett-Jackson with less than 100 miles. So it's just like it drove off the showroom floor. Well, a little earlier, April had talked about a modern generation, or as modern as you could get GTO, that last version of it. Now we're going to go back to the origins of the GTO, 1964.
Yeah, this is where it all started. The GTO, Gran Turismo Homologado, was an option on the Pontiac Tempest Le Mans. You got those faux hood scoops, you got the badging, and you got this 389 under the hood. This one's been treated to Tri-Power, the upgrade of the 3 two-barrel carburetors. Car and Driver magazine faked a comparison test of the Pontiac GTO and the 1962 Ferrari GTO with a painting of both cars side by side on the cover. And people got it, and they bought it, and this was a huge hit for Pontiac.
This was a real win for somebody later on who would be infamous, right? It was a John DeLorean special.
Now, this is a base car. It does have bucket seats. They all have buckets, but it's a column shift automatic because whoever ordered this did not go for the center console option, which would have meant a floor shifter.
I think the early GTOs are my favorite because they're not so big. You know, they sort of, they're kind of Mustang sized, and the proportions look right. All the trim work kind of fits right on it well. I think these are super handsome cars.
Guess what? It's now the #1 sale of the day. This 1964 GTO currently at $43,000.
It deserves it. This is the birth of the muscle car right here. Mike Joy just popped the trunk. You see the original intake on this one. It didn't come with Tri-Power, so they have that in the trunk to replace it with the single 4-barrel carburetor there.
I like that. As our friend Steve Mugnante always says, if it's not on the car, put it in the trunk, and that way the next buyer can make his choice. Does he want that Quadrajet 4-barrel, or does he want the 3 deuces?
Well, guess what? Whatever he wants, he bought it at $44,000, this 1964 Pontiac GTO. Congratulations to that gentleman right there. And with that, let's take a look at our Hagerty Top 5 sellers, brought to you by, of course, Hagerty. Leading the way is now that GTO, followed by that Cadillac sold just a little while ago for $40,000. And then after that, we got a Ford, we got a Mercedes, and we've got a Porsche 356 replica that sold for $33,000. And if you want to break into our top 10, it'll take at least $28,000. And I think before the day is over, well, that number's probably going to go up just a bit. We're going to take a quick break here in Columbus, but we will come back to the heartland of America. A few clouds out there, but boy, I tell you, overall it's a nice day here in Columbus. And just check out the cars that are lining up in the staging lanes. That International on the right-hand side. You got a Cobra Kit car on the left. A little newer Mustang. Boy, I love that Chevelle sitting up there. A newer Camaro. That's all you get to cross the block. And right now we got a 1979 Ford F-250 pickup truck.
Yeah, single cab. F-250 means it's a 3/4 ton truck, a 460 V8 automatic, power steering and brakes, riding on 18-inch American racing wheels.
It's the long bed on this one, I believe. So that, yes, it is. So it'll hold it back a little bit on the price. People are looking for the short beds, but overall, you know, pretty solid. It's like a nice driver paint job with a lot of pearl metallic, a lot more than you would find, you know, or you wouldn't find in the 1970s. Rhino lined there in the bed as well, so you can't actually use it as a truck. That's the nice thing. I feel like you could buy this and enjoy it as a show car, but also use it as a truck.
Yeah, and I love the front grille on this generation. It has a kind of really muscular, aggressive, something you totally see on a farm.
Dual tanks on this one too. You can see the 2 filler doors, so you could go a ways.
$27,000 for that 1979 Ford F-250 pickup truck. Big 3/4 ton. All right, how about a 1966 Bronco Custom? First Bronco that we've seen in this auction.
Well, this is a little different because the Bronco was originally offered with 3 different cabs. Either no top, a pickup truck top like this one has, or a full SUV style top, which ended up being the only one after the first year.
Yeah, I like this one. Has a 6-cylinder engine, And, you know, you see a lot of these with Coyote V8s and things like that. Yeah, as you know, you've driven them. They don't need more power.
It does mean big money when they put big power under the hood, though. We've seen crazy, multiple six figures for custom Bronco builds. It's one of the themes that Barrett Jackson started. It's just unbelievable.
I mean, people certainly like the Restomod version, but I like this thing for its honesty. You know, it's got a lot of things that are painted. It's like they got a little too much with the paint, but I like that it's like, you know, somebody enjoyed this thing and made it their own, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that visor over the windshield you were showing a minute ago looks homemade, and so does the covers over the bed rails. Yeah, there's that with the louvers cut in. You know, a sheet metal bending brake. You can do that at home, right?
In the Bronco world, you have cut, uncut, and flares. In this one, we have cut rear quarters on it because from the factory, they weren't like the front as far as the as far as the front having room for the suspension to articulate or the larger oversized tires. So a lot of people will put on different rear quarters like this to give it more ground clearance and be able to raise the thing up, put on big tires, or they'll put on big flares. I think this is the most elegant way to do it if you're going to do a lift and oversized tires to get the quarters that actually look from the factory.
Those bumpers look homemade as well. Big long piece of steel tube. You weld a round piece of tread plate on each end. Add a hitch receiver, away you go.
Yeah, what I also think is really cool about this one is that they didn't go crazy with the wheel and tires. It's sort of like, to me, it's the right size. It fits the truck, and I love white letters.
All right, $28,000 for that 1966 Ford Bronco. By the way, that was actually built in August of 1965, so it's a very, very early Bronco. Love the look of that. Away it goes. Interesting hood ornament up front as well. Right behind it, this is a truck we previewed just a little while ago, a 1979 International Scout II Travel Top.
Super clean. Looks like stock ride height on this one with the all-terrain tires, and you can see it has the original four-wheel drive system where you go and lock in the hubs. You get out and turn that little red sort of knob there in the middle of the hub to engage it. And this one, well, it's either a very older respray or a lot of patina on it, but otherwise, it looks pretty clean as far as a nice body.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, if you told me this is the color combo you're going to paint a car, I'd say, like, I don't know. But I kind of like it on here. It has a kind of period feel to it.
And it has the sort of dog catcher little accessory there in the back as far as the fencing there. So that's something I haven't seen in one of these before, but it definitely, you can see its intended purpose. And a roll bar has been added for extra safety in the same color as the exterior.
So on the side is the International Harvester logo. That is the company that built the Scout. There it is. And I learned not long ago that logo is more than just an I and an H. All right, you got to look a little closely here. Could we bring the camera back up to the logo? Sure, it's a red I and a black H. But this is a man sitting on a tractor with the big tractor tires on the side. And International Harvester is mainly a farm implement company. So there you go.
The hood opens the opposite way. You can see 345 cubic inch V8 and air conditioning. Factory air conditioning, it looks like.
I'll tell you what, I think it's a pretty good deal. $21,000. We've seen values on these Scouts really moving up, and that one just sold here at Barrett Jackson for $21,000 at 1971. Thank you, Tyler, for getting the hood back down on that one. Sometimes it's not easy. 1965 Chevy Malibu SS Custom.
Look at the huge cowl hood on this thing. I wonder, let's take a look what's inside, if it's hiding something or if it's just all for show. Oh, we do have a supercharger, so they are making use of that cowl hood on this Blueprint V8 engine, small block, Chevy small block. Really nice.
Yeah, beautiful. There's the belt-driven blower from Edelbrock, aluminum cylinder headers. Wow.
So that will do it for our first 3 hours of live coverage here on FYI. But guess what? We still have plenty of fun rides to show you crossing the block today. So buckle up and continue to cruise along with us for the next 2 hours here at Barrett Jackson Columbus. For the first time ever, Barrett-Jackson has come to the Midwest. We are in the heartland, Columbus, Ohio, for our inaugural auction here at this location. Today's day one. Boy, what a fun day it's been so far. You see us, we're here at the Ohio's Expo and Fairgrounds. I'm Rick DeBrule along with Mike Joy, Tyler Hoover, April Rose. And up on the block right now, we got a 1965 Chevy Malibu SS Custom Convertible.
It's got a blueprint engine, a 350, engine size that didn't exist in 1965 at Chevrolet, with a belt-driven blower, aluminum cylinder heads, tubular headers. All that work under the hood is why the bid is at $40,000.
Well, and that makes it tied as the number 2 sale of the day. Top sale was a 64 GTO that sold just a little while ago. And now if you want to break into our top 10, it's going to take at least $30,000. All right, from that Malibu, we're going to move forward to 2006, a Mustang, but this one's pretty special, Saleen S281 SC.
Yeah, you guys probably remember the Saleen Mustang, the first one on the Fox body, which was a absolute track terrier, and it was a really terrific upgrade. So this is on the S197 chassis, similar kind of formula. They put the VIN number on the bumper, and it's for the Mustang owner or buyer who wanted something different than they could get at the dealer.
You had a lot of choices then. If you didn't like a stock Mustang, you could get a Saleen, you could get a Roush, you could get a Kenny Brown. I'm missing somebody big here. Oh, Carroll Shelby. You could get a lot of Mustang kind of aftermarket.
It was the era of the tuners that we like to call it, and so something like this, for somebody is a reward, right? And they want the top of the line, and that's what Saleen offered. And they were a little stiff for the road, but on the track is when they really kind of came alive. They had upgraded brakes and things like that. So kind of an interesting footnote in Mustangs.
And this one, as far as Saleen goes of this era, it is a big deal. A full body kit that a lot of them had the wheels, but this one is the supercharged version, so the highest performance version. But the rarest part is the roof on this one. It has the gigantic glass panel right here, replacing the roof panel, something that Saleen did. Very rare to find on one of these, and that makes this thing really special. Also, the low mileage, under 10,000 miles in the odometer with this one.
Ford did offer the all-glass roof for 1 year on this body style, but of course you had to have proof of concept, and that's where Steve Saleen came in. He got it first.
You can see his autograph on the dashboard there, and a manual transmission on this one, a few extra gauges there on the dashboard up high. So this thing a pretty special piece, and now our top seller of the day so far.
Yeah, right now it's currently bid to $46,000, and it's still moving. Just jumped to 49. See, we got an internet bidder as well as someone on the floor going for it. The way it goes, looked like the internet bidder got shut out. $48,000, the final bid for that 2006 Mustang Saleen. All right, a few moments ago, we saw an International Scout going across the block. It's time for a second one. This one from 1975.
Well, International's coming back. In a couple of years, there'll be a whole new one. Basically electric with, they call it an E-Rev, a range extender gas engine in the back. We don't really know what that looks like yet, but there's a lot of nostalgia for the International brand.
Yeah, the plant has been built in South Carolina, I believe, and they're ready to go.
So they're ready to go. So it was going to be an electric, but now they're going to add the gas motor to make it a kind of a hybrid.
I put down the deposit for one, and it's been delayed a lot because obviously revealing expensive electric cars have been failure after failure after failure. So they had to go back, probably redo everything to make it with that range extending generator, basically, as far as the engine, to make it practical where people want it. But definitely they nailed it on the looks. It looks very much like a vintage International, sort of like what we have here.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an iconic style, the proportions, the grille and everything like that. And so it was interesting that nobody's done it until now, which I think is kind of funny too. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job so far.
I'd say this one is much cleaner than the Scout we saw earlier. And once again, stock ride height. This one looks like a much higher quality paint job and, less sort of things that, would make it more specialized, where I think a wider pool of buyers. And I think a greater color combination. Looks really nice with the interior. They also did a leather stitch dash on this one with that baby blue inside on the dashboard. So very well done.
Didn't Bruce? No. What's I'm blanking on the name. You know, the guy from Smokey and the Bandit. He drove one of these in that movie Deliverance, right?
Burt Reynolds? Yeah, this one has a step bumper that's aftermarket and the steel wagon wheels, but otherwise it appears very stock.
Why do I cringe anytime anybody says Deliverance? I don't know why. $35,000 for that 1975 International Scout 2. Congratulations to that gentleman right there. He gets the handshake. All right, I love this car that's rolling up on the block row. A 1959 DeSoto Fireflight. And okay, you think you want big fin, but you don't want a Cadillac? This was the car to own.
I'm with you. I think we call them the lovely. I mean, they're just sort of like all the 50s craziness. Somehow it's harmonious on these cars. And they still had the big wild fins. Great car.
And they had to set it off with the dual antennas on top of that. If the fins weren't enough, let's make it even crazier with the dual antennas, making it higher than the roof in total.
So look at all that stainless trim around the roof. This is a Fireflight Sportsman, so it's absolutely the top of the line. Those big triple taillights, like everybody else had horizontally, they did them vertically with a whole lot more tail fin to add on to it, add on badging it. They just pretty much kept throwing chrome and stainless on this car until it couldn't handle any more trim.
And speaking of, all this chrome and stainless looks like it's been redone at some point, which would have been a lot of work to do as far as doing a restoration on these. All the chrome, all the bright work, to get it all right, it's a very expensive prospect. Certainly way more than $26,000 currently bid. The interior as well looks beautifully done.
But don't you love this era where like every couple of years something wild and crazy was coming out of Detroit, like multiple times. And that's what this car speaks to me as, like a great representation of the 50s.
I want you to note the upholstery. It's pretty rad. Look at that pattern. And note the rear view mirror. Instead of hanging from above the windshield, it sits there on the dash, up above the dash. Plenty of glass in this one, very thin A and C pillars, no B pillar with this hardtop.
And how about that font on the side of the car, the Sportsman? I mean, that is like this custom font that is so 50s.
White and what looks like salmon. Looks a lot like dinner last night, actually, for that two-tone.
Yeah, the push-button automatic transmission. Once again, I just love all the excess of this car.
I would have called that typewriter drive, as we did back in the 50s, but then I'd have to explain what a typewriter was for some of our audience, and it just wasn't, not now, no, maybe later.
We'll explain it to Tyler after the show. All right, Barrett-Jackson.com. That is the website to learn more about all the cars that are crossing block. The full list of cars that are crossing today, tomorrow, and Saturday here in Columbus. All right, we're going to stay in 1959. How about the competitor for that car you just saw, that Fireflight? How about an Edsel Corsair?
Tyler, guess where this was sold new? Wichita, Kansas.
Really? Well, yeah, I came out of Wichita, Kansas myself, and I'm about as well regarded as the Edsel when it comes to looks, unfortunately. But this one, by 1959, they had made some refinements and fixed a lot of the issues that had with the early Edsels, but it was definitely too little too late.
Only 1,343 of these were made. There's the air conditioning unit that hangs off the dashboard below the radio, because a lot of cars were not ordered from the factory with air, so the dealers had to do it.
Now, if memory serves, this was named after Henry Ford's son, right? Edsel, his only son. Can you imagine having a whole car named after you and then it doesn't succeed?
Sold new at Dick Price Ford Edsel in Wichita, Kansas. That's the casting underneath the left rear tail light, something that all dealers used to do on their new cars. Now it's done with stickers.
You know, there's so many case studies as to why Edsel went under. You know, the fact that they tried to be too many things to all people. You know, they also, more importantly, had that horse collar grill up front that really just wasn't attractive. But the bottom line is, came out in 58. They changed it a little bit in 59. Big styling change in 60, and boom, it was gone.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how hard the car business is, right? Like, you do all the research in the world, you think you have a home run, but the market can be very capricious, which is showed with this car.
Well, I understand what they were thinking. GM had 3 mid-level brands between Chevy and Cadillac, and Chrysler had 2, Dodge and DeSoto, between Plymouth and Imperial. Ford had only 1, Mercury. So, yeah, let's add another kind of mid-semi-luxury kind of, and like you said, 3 years and it was gone.
Well, now every brand has like 10 different crossovers, so it's not that different.
Well, unfortunately, it was too different for its day. 1966 Mustang up on the block right now.
Well, this is sweet. I saw this one out in the staging lanes, and it looks perhaps to be the least modified Mustang here. It does have the two-tone pony interior. It does have the hang-off-the-dashboard air conditioning, and like every Mustang ever built, it has a floor shifter.
Yeah, the funny thing I find with early Mustangs, I've driven a ton of them, and most of them have been modified. And then once you get in a stock one not modified, you realize how kind of pleasant they are. They go down the road really well. They ride well. All the effort of the controls is not super heavy. So something like this, where it's a notchback and not the more popular fastback, you can get a classic for, really kind of a great value.
Well, this one's doing pretty well considering what it is. It's not a fastback, not any of the crazy VIN codes. This one's a C code, so the 2-barrel 289 on this one. But the quality of it is just so high as far as, the restoration, the paint job, the interior, and that air conditioning to make it pretty practical. I can definitely understand the current bid.
And I'll point out again, we're in Ohio, where most of these long ago turned to dust and rust. So to have a nice first-gen Mustang, rust-free, brand new paint, brand new re-chrome, new taillights, new trim, new interior, this is a deal.
And it's a solid resto mod because they've done some changes underneath the hood. They put in an Edelbrock carburetor. They got a different manifold. So they've upgraded the performance because you got to remember, a C-code Mustang from this era was only 200 horsepower with that 2-barrel carburetor. So they've upgraded, but on the outside, boy, it looks dead stock, and I love the color combination.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they overdid it with the performance modifications to make it sort of like a heavy-handed thing. I mean, this is a 1966 car, so it doesn't have the stiffest chassis. So you want to be careful.
Well, it just slid into the number 3 spot for today on Thursday, the first day of the auction here in Columbus. Man, they are thrilled to come away with that, and I can see why. That 1966 Mustang just sold for $43,000. All right, it's Camaro time, and this one's very modern from 2011, an SS Custom.
Okay, once again, we have a radically bumped out hood as far as intake or cowl hood. This one's carbon fiber, and we're struggling to open it to see what's going on here. It's more for show on this one. This looks like, other than the intake, a pretty stock LS or 6.2 V8. Looks like it's had headers on it, so the exhaust treatment. So, some modifications, but no forced induction.
Yeah, they've done the total internals, different rods and pistons. So it's definitely a built motor. And those things, it's like you can really make these LSs rip and roar. They're such stout bottom ends.
And a manual transmission on this one, 6-speed manual, so you can definitely have some fun. But they built it to go fast, so the rear seats are gone, all a drag racer. And since it has that built power in the hood, they definitely put some big slicks on this thing so it hooks up.
Well, they took some good liberties in the rebuild, as this car, per the vehicle history report, was involved in an accident in 2016. No further details there.
And then this was a generation that brought the Camaro back after an absence. And I really love how they recaptured the kind of the look and feel of the original. Some modifications like this one has, especially to the front, gave it this really very aggressive, kind of menacing look, which I think fits a car with that kind of power.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson, $29,000. 2011 Camaro Custom, an SS, and away it goes to a brand new owner. All right, are you a Cobra fan? Because up on the block now, we got a 427 Roadster recreation. So, Tyler, there are a whole bunch of these sort of Cobra recreations out there for good reason, right? The Cobra is such an amazing car. You get to experience it for a lot less money.
A lot less, yeah. A real Shelby Cobra, especially a 427, that'd be a $1 million plus prospect. So you can find one of these and actually enjoy it as intended. And this one has some unusual things as far as that hood with that intake. You can see it there. And then I see I guess they're kind of slide-on, bolt-on windows with some high backed seats in it. Usually they don't go up high with the headrest and all that stuff, so a bit more comfort on this one. Also, look at the shifter on this thing. It's an automatic transmission, but there is a snake's head with red eyes there to shift the automatic transmission, so pretty unusual.
I think the big giveaway here are the Barcalounger seats. They are just totally unlike anything you would have seen in a real Shelby back in the day. The color is Audi Nardo Gray.
Audi TT, yeah. And also, I mean, side pipes, right? You can't get side pipes much anymore, so that's a whole unique sound and experience that I think probably people are going to appreciate.
They were really concerned about blind spots on this one as well. This oversized mirrors mounted to the fender. So there's a lot of things done to this to make it more drivable, I guess, easy to drive. They even put a luggage rack on the back so you could pack up and go on a trip.
I think the paint is what's really, I mean, the paint quality looks so high quality. I think that's a big factor in helping this thing climb up the sale chart.
Well, guess what? It may not look very stock in that classic Cobra style, but right now it's the #1 sale of the day for our first day. It's bid to $53,000. And that's what it sells for, this 1966 427 Cobra Recreation. Away it goes to a brand new owner. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to thank Larry Webster for joining us, and we will be right back here in Columbus because I think we got another hour and 45 minutes left of our coverage here the very first day of the Columbus auction. Well, we're about to have a new #1 sale of the day. It's a 1968 Mustang Shelby GT350H convertible. They call it a recreation, but it's really a what if a convertible had been built, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson in Columbus for $59,000. So it has that Hearst look, and away it goes to a brand new owner. Very nicely done, and they seem pretty excited to get their hands on that. 1956 Chevy 3100 custom pickup truck right now.
You know, I'm not a fan of Battleship Gray. I was never in the Navy, but this is not my color, though this is done to a high standard and a good gloss. But look what else they've done here by taking all of the trim, except the wheels, and going semi-gloss black with it. I think it's a very attractive combination the way this one's been completed.
I agree. The 1950s is all about chrome and just, all the dressing, the gingerbread, and that has been rejected with this build entirely. 350 cubic inch V8 under the hood of this one. 20-inch wheels, which definitely, jazz things up quite a bit, but I do like this sort of stealthy look with that gray with everything else, in black. I guess the taillights, the trim around it, the only thing showing some bright work at all.
This has the standard small rear window, which means you got a pretty good blind spot from that C-pillar. They later came out with a larger rear window as an option to compensate. Fresh wood in the bed. Really sharp wheels, much bigger than it was born with. Great presentation all the way around here.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $35,000 for that 1956 Chevy 3100 custom pickup truck. Let's check out the McGuire staging lanes out there just outside of our auction arena. That's where all the cars get a chance to hang out for just a few minutes before they cross the block, and it's a great chance for potential bidders to sort of come up, kick the tires, take a closer look at it, see what it sounds like when they start up, talk to the driver, and find out if there's any additional information. So if you're going to buy a car, it's always good to hang out on those staging lanes before it gets up onto the auction block. I think it's the very first-gen Camaro crossing the block, a 68 Camaro Custom.
Well, when we're in Scottsdale doing cars like this, and I point this out, nobody knows what I'm talking about. But here in the snow belt, what do we call these fake scoops on the hood? Ice cube trays. This one with a 350. And with the wrap around the nose and then down the side styling of the stripes, one of 3 different stripe packages you could get with this.
Yeah, I'm looking for the button that you would press on this for the ice cubes to come out. I don't really understand. I don't understand. All right, obviously the freezer ice cube trays. It's definitely a look unique to this very early Camaro on the hood. And this one, another very high quality restoration. A few little embellishments. The Krager wheels, definitely a popular choice, but otherwise pretty faithful on this one.
A couple of styling cues separate the 68 from the 67. The year before it, from the side, the biggest one is no vent windows. Chevrolet called it Astro ventilation, where the door windows have no vent window or wind wing. Also the side marker lights and the rectangular parking lights in the grille instead of round the year before.
Well, they also changed the rear shock absorbers. They went to staggered shocks to get rid of the wheel hop problem they had with the 1967. But yeah, from a looks perspective, very, very similar. And boy, good money for this one, $44,000, meaning that is now tied as the #4 sale on this first day of the auction in Columbus. Let's check in with April Rose.
Rick, you gotta check this out. 1976 Fiat Jolly. It's called the Jolly Trolley, and she definitely looks jolly. You got a custom scoop right up front. The bumper's been reimagined. I love the headlights. I got those eyebrows up top. On the side, white wall tires, because she is fancy. Almost has a wide body kit with these fender flares. Here's your doors. I don't know how safe that is, but it's all about fun. You got your top here with the fringe lined. Inside is pretty basic, pretty bare bones. Bench seat in the back. Keep on coming here. I don't think these are the original tail lights, but they do look very cool, almost an art style Art Deco styling. Now, it's got a 1.1 liter inline 4-speed manual finished in fire mist orange paint. Rick, I think you and Mike and Tyler and I can all squeeze into this and ride off into this Ohio sunset. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's just the only way we're going to travel, but not to the Ohio sunset. This is where you take it, to the beach somewhere, some beach resort. You'll see that up on the block. That is a pretty wild thing. 1969 Impala Custom.
Well, earlier we talked Battleship Gray. Here's the Battleship. 69, the full-size Chevy. First year for the loop bumper. Previously, the bumper was below the grille and separate from it. But this two-door hardtop has changed everything to go drag racing.
Pretty wild. The cowl hoods, they keep getting bigger. That's the biggest one I bet I've ever seen as far as the air induction term of the cowl, because a 383 cubic inch V8 under the hood with a big supercharger. And if you look down low, it does look like it has been tubbed in the rear to fit these gigantic tires. So this thing would definitely hook up as well. Really impressive, actually.
Edelbrock carb and Edelbrock belt-driven supercharger. On this one, big, huge slicks in the back. This was kind of the beginning of the end for the full-size two-door hardtop body style, which I think was much more successful in, say, Chevelle or Camaro sized by this time than on the full-size car. So somebody took this one, rebuilt it, had a lot of fun.
Well, there it goes, $20,000. An awful lot of work went into that. It looks very nice under the lights, but you got to know that you want to have one of those big things sticking out of the hood and big tires on the back, those side exhausts. Actually, a lot of fun in that car, I think. Rolling up behind it, we got a 1956 Cadillac Series 62. This is a Coupe de Ville.
Well, hard to miss the Dagmars out there on the front bumper, the pair of them, named for a supposedly Swedish TV sitcom actress of the 1950s who was similarly shaped. The real joke was that Dagmar wasn't Swedish at all. She was from West Virginia, had a college degree, but she sure knew how to play the archetype dumb blonde in TV comedies. All right, all that aside, hey, this is a Cadillac. This is the standard of the world. Look at this crest. Look how big it is. It's almost hand-sized. There are the little merlettes, the ducks without feet, as in heraldry. Missing from today's Cadillac logo. Not happy about that, because this was when Cadillac was the standard of the world.
And Cadillac's credited with the birth of the fin era of the 1950s, actually going back to the late 40s. Looks very similar to this 56 as far as what they had. They were modeling after a World War II twin-tail fighter plane called the P-38. Harley Earl sort of said, hey, let's sort of make that look like a car, and that's what started the fin craze. And so after this, obviously, the fins grew gigantically up until 1959.
And here's how they did it. Harley Earl got in touch with the people at Lockheed in Burbank, had a P-38 flown to an airstrip near Detroit, locked in a hangar, brought all the GM stylists in to see it, and said, when we start building cars again, this is what we're going to do. The jet age? No, this is cool. So you got a twin boom Cadillac, much like the twin boom P-38.
And that first appeared in 1948. And you have to understand, most of it, like the Chevy that came out, the new post-war body style, didn't debut till the next year in 1949. Same with Ford. So Cadillac put those tail fins out in 48, but they didn't come out with their new V8 until 1949. So 1949 is really the one you want to get.
I studied up on that one. The millionth Cadillac was built the day I was born in 1949, and it resides in the GM Heritage Museum, their collection. I'm going to go see that one day.
And these have a pretty trick fuel filler door back here. I just raised it up. You can see this tail light comes up and reveals the fuel filler to hide, not spoil the body line. So that's one trick with these Cadillacs, starting in the late 40s.
Well, that one just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $36,000 for that 1956 Cadillac Series 62. Coming up, how about a 1970 Dodge Challenger convertible? This is powered by that 318 cubic inch V8. It's got an automatic transmission. I love the rally wheels on this, and we'll see it up on the block very soon. I'm going to do a quick...
Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio. Inaugural trip for the Buckeye State for Barrett-Jackson. And we're most of the way through the first of 3 days, with all of today's cars selling at no reserve. Lot 165 on the block right now, a 65 Chevy C10 pickup.
This is certainly a color you wouldn't have been able to get in 1965. A very bright turquoise pearl metallic here, and I like the pinstriping all around to match. And of course, the custom sort of fade job there with the Chevrolet in the tailgate, and everything very well done on this one. Beautiful chrome wheels, 350 cubic inch V8 under hood, but all the sort of factory correct right work other than the wheels. So I really like it.
Yeah, I kind of like the modern Von Dutch style pinstriping they have that they put in here. Let's check out the interior, because well, just about everything has been touched on this. Fairly simple inside, but much more modern in terms of having a radiator and better gauges.
$29,000 plus the 10% buyer's premium will send that to its new home. Well, Smokey Yunick was one of the most famous car builders in NASCAR, and his 66 Chevelle lives in a great collection up in Northern California. Here is a recreation of that car with some special additions.
Yeah, of course, Smokey Yunick, one of the most iconic builders and engineers, if you want to call him that, during the beginning era of NASCAR and for quite some time. He even built a very interesting car that ran at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, at least tried to run for a time. So he was iconic in terms of everything he was able to do as a builder. And of course, this one has the Curtis Turner name up here on the driver's compartment, just above. And Curtis Turner, boy, he's a legend in himself. I mean, he won a number of races within NASCAR, but boy, he was famous for being, a hard-charging, hard-drinking kind of guy. And I think did he actually get banned at one point from NASCAR because he tried to start a union?
He did.
Here is Smokey Yunick's autograph on the trunk. It says Speed Week 1999 when he autographed it. And this thing has made the show circuit. There are stickers all over the glass, on the windshield and on the side. This thing is gotten around for sure.
Now, this has a small block under the hood, and it comes with an additional engine, a 375 horse 396 that comes with it, and a lot of GM engineering special parts to boot.
And the fun thing about it is you look in all the windows, you see all of these stickers from all of the events it's been to where they've been showing this off back in 2012, 2016. Then down here, of course, all of the Living Legends beach parades from Daytona. So this has been around for a while, and I would say the paint isn't fresh and new, but I tell you what, it looks fun, and it's a great homage to both Smokey Yunick and Curtis Turner.
In Talladega Nights, didn't Ricky Bobby's dad drive a car much like this? $29,000 takes that Smokey Yunick NASCAR recreation to its new owner. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Columbus. Here's a look inside the McGuire staging lanes where the cars are lined up and they get a quick polish. And it's the last chance for bidders to get a look and open the hood, open the trunk, look around, open the doors, and check out these cars fully and maybe talk to the consigners and figure out what their bid should be. $25,000, the hammer price for this Maserati Gran Turismo convertible that originally had an MSRP of $145,000 back in 2011. First year for the Dodge Challenger was this, 1970. Here's a convertible.
Yeah, when you get right down to it, Chrysler was pretty late to the pony car wars. I mean, they had the Barracuda, but, it was really based off of Valiant. It didn't have the full-on, reconstruction that they were going with the pony car world. But boy, when the Cuda and the Barracuda and the Challenger arrived with the E-bodies in 1970, I really think they nailed it. This had exactly the right look that they were going for. The fact that you could get a convertible in this. Now, this isn't the fancy ones, not a TA, not an RT. This is just a basic Challenger. But boy, the right year, looks right. Not a big engine, but a lot of fun right here.
At least it does have the V8 underhood, 318 cubic inch V8. It does have the stripe probably added to it afterwards to dress it up a bit. And with that white top and white interiors for the two-tone with the red dash, it definitely works, but it doesn't matter. Any Challenger of this year is going to be a big money car. And as you can see, $40,000 the current bid.
Note the stripe right behind the door and the way it kicks up there across the rear quarter panel. That kick-up was preserved when the new E-body Challenger was designed, and it handily outsold the original.
And the Challenger was actually designed to be a competitor for the Cougar. It was just slightly longer than the Barracuda, which was theoretically the Challenger for the Mustang. This was a little bit longer, supposed to have a little bit more elegance to it.
Shane Ratliff hammers it sold for $40,000. Well, 1970 was the high watermark for performance in Detroit. In that era, sure, it was about handling, sure, it was about ride comfort, but mainly it was all about horsepower, as Rick DeBrule explained.
4 factories and 4 different ways to fire up the fan base during the muscle car glory days. And we'll start with this 1970 Dodge Challenger TA. Dodge was a little late getting into the Trans Am game, but in 1970, they jumped in with both feet. Underneath the hood, that high-winding 340 cubic inch 6-pack engine. It's got distinctive graphics down the side, race-inspired suspension, and of course, that spectacular Sidewinder exhaust. The Chevrolet entry is this 1969 Camaro Z28. It was created to dominate Trans Am racing. Now, the Z28 paired sharp handling with a high-revving 302 cubic inch V8. It was not the biggest Camaro available, but it was a potent combination. You want even more firepower? How about this 1969 Mach 1 Mustang? It had aggressive styling, upgraded suspension, and in this case, a 428 cubic inch Cobra Jet engine. Officially, it made 335 horsepower, but the real number, probably closer to 400. And finally, factory firepower wouldn't be complete without a 442. This one is from 1968 with that W30 package, a 400 cubic inch V8 with a radical camshaft and a functional forced air induction. This one made 360 horsepower. 4 factories, 4 fierce performers that are all unforgettable.
Sure, that was the first era of high horsepower. The second big era is right now. A 1941 Hudson Big Boy pickup.
Tell you what, this may be the nicest big boy pickup on the planet. Looking closely at this, the paint is perfect. The interior is perfect. I don't know when this was redone or how it was redone. The bed is just right. Very rare in 1941. You know, this was designed to be a, kind of like a 3/4 ton pickup. And remember, we have the Ranchero and the El Camino that come along in the late 50s. Well, this was that same basic concept. You take a car front end, put a bed on the back.
$37,500. The hammer price. Well done. So C3 Corvettes are coming on, and the rubber bumper cars are the value proposition. These earlier chrome bumper C3s, those are the ones you want, like this 1972.
Beautiful, yes, with those bumpers. I agree, Mike. And this one, very nice restoration on it. You can see it's the T-top configuration where they have one T-top removed and the rear glass folds down. You can actually have it folded down, I think, to get the driver to have some more ventilation. But 350 cubic inch V8 under the hood. They continue to make convertibles until around 1975. And then this is the closest that you could get to a convertible as far as the T-tops. But yeah, this one looks a lot better with the chrome bumpers rather than the Impact era, but yeah, this one's beautifully done as far as the paint and everything else. This is very pretty.
Well, I tell you what, if you get one a couple years earlier, you can get greater performance. You can get the bigger engines. You can get more horsepower. But when you get the combination, you're still at the very tail end of having enough horsepower to make it worthwhile. I mean, another 3, 4, 5 years later, it's going to dip down to like 160 horses. But you've got the great look, those chrome bumpers. I love this blue color on the outside, the T-tops. This is really a fun combination. If you want to get into this era of a collector car, you think you can't afford maybe a 68 or a 69 or 70 with the high horsepower, I think this is the way to go right here.
Well, 1972 was the year the government required manufacturers to give net horsepower ratings, and the number for the Corvette dropped by almost 100 horsepower. But it was the same engine as 1971, which had a gross horsepower rating without all the engine accessories on it. So it was just a change in nomenclature. It was still the same engine, but it did hinder sales because people thought it was a less powerful car. Now they know better.
Right, I think it was slightly throttled through the smog equipment that was put on, but overall, it was a great buy.
$36,000 sends that Corvette to a new home. And we've got lots more dream rides to cross the block here in Barrett Jackson's first ever trip to Columbus, Ohio. Welcome back to Columbus, and Barrett Jackson with 3 full days of great cars to cross the auction block in Barrett Jackson's first ever appearance in the Midwest. Second time we've been in the Rust Belt, and we got a lot of great rust-free, beautiful cars to show you, like this 75 Volkswagen Super Beetle ranked top.
Yeah, the Super Beetle came out in the early 70s, and the idea was to give a little more performance, if you want to call it that, in the Volkswagen. So one of the significant things they did was they put McPherson strut suspension in the front end. They also enlarged the trunk, so it was just a little bit nicer than what you would get on the old Standard. Now, not everybody liked it. Some people felt it was a little too long up front. But having said that, this was an upgrade. It just wasn't an upgrade a lot of people appreciated.
You know who drove one of these and had a lot of fun with it around Westport, Connecticut? That would be one Paul Newman. Of course, his had a Porsche engine. Of course it did. $21,000 is the hammer price. Now, if you'd like to try and sharpen your bidding skills and maybe win an amazing prize in the process, you'll want to play Fantasy Bid, brought to you by Dodge. Here's April to preview one of the cars you will be predicting the price on.
Oh, Mike, I am in love. 1969 Mach 1 R Code. Beautiful restoration, raven black paint. Down below, you got the chin spoiler, the hood pins, flat black hood, functional shaker hood, and along the side, you got to see these, the tires. They are period correct polyglass Goodyears. You got your stripe, the reflective stripe, all the way down the side for the Mach 1. Full deluxe Marti report, all the documentation, so you know it's exactly what we're saying she is. Now come on back here. We've got the slats, we've got the spoiler, and I love how the graphic just wraps around that back end like a piece of art. Quad exhaust. I mean, this is a special car. It's got its matching numbers, 428 Cobra Jet V8, matching numbers 4-speed, true to what it was built as. Power steering, power brakes, inside beautiful raven black bucket seats, wood wheel, wood trim all around. This is perfection. Mike, I'd be nervous to drive it because it is glorious and I wouldn't want to make one scratch or one ding anywhere.
Thanks, April. It'll cross the block Saturday, so register to play now. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 or older. Visit promo.barrettjackson.fantasybid.com for official rules. Who knows? The grand prize is a Dodge Charger Scat Pack Plus, and you could win it. Here's a Fiat Jolly custom convertible.
Well, this is the one that April previewed just a little while ago. You know, the Fiat Jolly was built between, I think, 58 and 66. It was supposed to be a beach car. It had a little tiny engine in it. This is a crazy concept that they've come up with here. This is a 1976 Fiat that's been customized to look like a Jolly. And of course, what they've done is they've cut out the doors, put a much bigger engine in it. Boy, what a wild thing this is.
Franken Jolly, I'd call it. $16,000 is what the high bidder calls it. And now for something completely different. Never have I ever seen a Buick Regal Custom Coupe like this one, this 79. It tends to replicate Richard Petty's 1981 Daytona 500 winner. Take it away, boys.
Well, yeah, except that it's also a lowrider. Now, right now, it's raised up, but in a moment, they can knock it down. And now, this is not one of the over-top lowriders. We started to see some of those at Barrett-Jackson in Scottsdale, where they had really amazing work done. This is a much more simplistic design, and this, well, the paint scheme, if we'll call it that, is actually a wrap done to look like Richard Petty's car from the early 1980s.
So you're telling me that Richard Petty didn't do lowrider competitions in the 70s during, you know, the off-season and stuff?
You know what this reminds me of? One of the cars from the movie Cars. You know, you can't just picture it sitting up and waving its wheel at you. But I give them credit. You know, they've gone the distance in terms of the wrap. It really looks like a Buick from that era. Having said that, boy, this is a wild thing. It's even got a velour interior.
Well, it's been a great start to our first Barrett-Jackson collector car auction in the Midwest, but we're not done yet. We still have another hour of action to bring you. Our live coverage of Barrett-Jackson Columbus continues here on FYI, and here is this Richard Petty, a Daytona 500 winning tribute lowrider Buick Regal. Never have I ever, and we're at $10,000 and struggling for more.
It'd be difficult to replicate as far as the hydraulics to get this thing to bounce for that price. You know, the Richard Petty custom wrap, another very expensive thing to do as far as a custom wrap like this, so definitely a buy here.
$10,000 is the hammer price. I'm speechless, so let me re-rack here and move on to lot 178, which is a 1963 Chevrolet Biscayne custom two-door sedan.
Here's the thing, Mike, and this is what I like about this first day in Columbus. We've had a wide variety of cars crossing the block. Literally something for just about every taste has come across the block, and I love this. A Biscayne from 1963. Now, the important thing about the Biscayne is it was the entry level for a full-size Chevrolet in 1963. We see plenty of Impalas crossing the block, but boy, to see this Biscayne nicely done as a good rest-of-on with a 350 cubic inch small block under the hood, I like it.
I see it's been upgraded with Impala taillights because the Biscayne only got 2, not 3 lights per side.
You are right. It's very difficult to differentiate it otherwise, I guess, with the badging. You see the interior also very different from stock. That diamond-stitched leather interior, the thick loop red carpets, column-mounted tachometer. And the paint job overall outside looks very nice, so there's a lot to like here.
Now note those hubcaps. We would call them poverty caps. They're also called dog dish caps.
Yeah, poverty caps simply because they were the cheapest hubcaps you could buy back then. And of course, dog dish just because when you were done using them on your car, you used to give water to your dog. But I tell you what, to your point, Tyler, the fact that this is a black paint job, black shows pretty much every flaw. And looking down the side of this, it's pretty nice. The bright work, the chrome looks really good. A lot of light to here, I think.
Anybody know when they went pillarless on the Impala? This one definitely has thick B-pillars on it.
In the 50s, you could get 58 right from the start. 1958, you could get a two-door hardtop Impala, but you could not get a two-door hardtop Biscayne. $27,000 will send that one to its new home. If you go to Barrett-Jackson.com, you can register there and take a look and see what all the cars have sold for and see what's coming up today, tomorrow, and Saturday here in Columbus. Here's a 79 Firebird Trans Am with a 4.9-liter V8 in solar gold.
Yeah, once again, we see so many in those Smokey and the Bandit black and gold colors, but this one I love the solar gold with the giant screaming chicken. You know, as I recall, back in 1979, I think Hot Rod Magazine had a picture of this car and asked if this was the last muscle car, because by now, of course, horsepower was gone, and the idea being that, well, you still could get some semblance of performance out of this car.
It's a bit of a stretch compared to the early 70s, but I suppose you could. The engine kept getting downsized. This one, 1979, a 4.9-liter V8 in this one. The snowflake wheels wouldn't be correct to 1979, but definitely work with the gold as far as that style of snowflake wheel. And yeah, this one isn't a special edition, which would have had even more gold in the pinstriping and things. It looks like it had the pinstriping added, but it's not a factory special edition.
And what happened in 1979 is, of course, you know, the performance was gone, right? You couldn't get horsepower. So if you can't have horsepower, how are you going to sell the car? Well, let's give it more bling. Let's get this solar gold. Biggest chicken we can find. Make it gold inside as well. It was all about the bling.
You know, I had a Z28 of this era, and yes, it only had 200 horsepower, but it was still one of the best handling and cornering cars you could buy at that time. So somebody's going to enjoy this for $20,000. We're going to stay in that same era with this 1979 Chevy Corvette with a 350 V8 and this one with a 4-speed manual.
Well, I guarantee you somebody was debating, should I buy a 1979 Firebird with that solar, gold color, or should I splurge and get the Corvette? Not quite as much room inside, but it just looks cool. And once again, not a lot of performance, but boy, I tell you, it had all the styling of that Mako Shark era. Getting towards the end of this run, but it still looked great.
I like the way this one was optioned, and I like what was done afterwards. You can see the sort of cowl hood on this one, nice red repaint on it, but also a manual transmission, 4-speed manual on this one. And somebody added this spoiler that definitely works. It goes all the way up the rear quarter quite a ways and actually accentuates the rear end, the styling of the C3, especially the later ones. And I think it's a great look.
You could get those spoilers from places like Mid-America Motor Works. We want to say hello to Mike Yeager and all the folks there in Effingham, Illinois, who are trying to recover from the tornado that virtually destroyed both their warehouse and their museum there. They will rebuild. They will be back, and they're going to need some help, but they're in it for the long haul, and they are a great part of the Corvette community. So our sympathies to them and hopes for a complete rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at this car inside, the interior could use a refreshening. I'm looking at the glass. It could use a little refreshening as well. The paint is really nice. And I think if you want to get into the hobby, this would be a great car to do it with.
I think that's a buy for $18,000. Nice 4-speed Corvette in bright red. Well done. So what happens when you take a very, very rare muscle car with very, very rare mileage and you bring it to Barrett-Jackson Columbus? Greg Jackson explains.
We have a very special car. This is a highly original 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 with a documented KK number of 1412. It is unrestored Survivor, showing around 4,450 original miles. It has a matching numbers 429 S-code engine. When you really look in here, it has all the rare components, but it is absolutely original in here. This is one of those benchmark cars that they could use for how cars should be judged. As you look inside the car, there's your original seats. It is in time warp, this entire car. It's almost like you're at the dealership in 1969. This is a true Survivor, a benchmark car, a real opportunity to pick up one of the best 429 bosses on the planet. They're only original one time, and this car is spectacular.
Now that Boss 9 was sold new in Akron, Ohio. It will cross the block Saturday, and we're told that members of the original owner's family will be here to give it a great send-off. Here's a 2008 Ford F-150 Harley-Davidson edition.
This one's had some upgrades thanks to Celine, a supercharger under hood, but I do believe this is the last generation of Ford Harley-Davidson edition trucks, and pretty low production on these, but you can see all the Harley badging on this one, the two-tone paint. Really cool truck, and a crew cab as well, so still pretty practical. But the Harley trucks, they were very popular for it. I think recently they came back with a different brand.
Well, you think about it, if you're a Harley-Davidson guy, and there's no shortage of them, and gal, I mean, this was the perfect complement to the motorcycle you had in your garage.
$25,000 is the hammer price. Lots more great cars on site here in Columbus, and many across the auction block here in the next hour as we are live on FYI. It's a beautiful day in Columbus, a bit of a mackerel sky there and some big cumulus clouds, but no rain in the forecast for today. It's always bright and sunny under the tents where the cars await their trip to the auction block. And today, tomorrow, they'll all find new homes, all selling at no reserve. Now here is the second Martinique Yellow Mitsubishi 3000 GT to cross the block in the last hour.
Yeah, the other one was the VR4, the hardtop convertible. This one is the non-hardtop convertible. It's the SL Step Up. But I love it because this is a one-owner car. It only has 43,000 miles on the odometer.
$14,000 the hammer price. This was a joint venture with Chrysler. This car was sold with slightly different styling as the Dodge Stealth. This is the Mitsubishi 3000 version. Lot 188. This is a Ford Mustang LX convertible, 1988.
Another really clean Fox body convertible. We've been seeing quite a few today. This one looks like another really nice respray, new white top, great looking interior. The only difference from stock, I can see the headlights, and it looks like Cobra wheels from about a decade newer, maybe from the mid to late 90s.
Well, what's interesting about this, it was sold new here in Ohio, but I have a feeling it's been cared for very well. It only has 58,000 miles, so I'm going to guess underneath the undercarriage probably looks pretty nice. Not a lot of rust issues that you normally have to deal with.
They have a copy of the original window sticker. Originally $17,897 new, and that 5.0 V8 under hood, that was an $1,800 option. Pretty pricey then as far as the price for that V8 engine.
And I mentioned it's got 58,000 miles. It had a brand new transmission put in about 1,000 miles ago. So, you know, I think it's ready for that next 100,000 miles. And I love the white top, the white body, and, you know, it's got a light colored interior inside. Boy, this is a great generation for this car.
A lot of these got repainted, not because of damage or issues or sun fading. It's just the quality of the paint back then just wasn't very good, and it just didn't hold up with time. So they never look like this when they're original, unless it's like basically saran wrap from new.
Well, that one just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $16,500. You know, in the automotive world, they're always trying to come up with new ways to sell a car. But, you know, sometimes it's just like reinventing things from old. So Mike Joy has a story of a concept that was used multiple times.
In the early 1950s, Max Hoffman, the U.S. importer, told Porsche, "Your cars are expensive compared to their competition. I want you to take your Roadster and take everything out of it that doesn't make it go fast so that I can sell it for under $3,000. The result was the Speedster. With its decontented lightweight and low windshield, this became a huge success for people who wanted to go racing. More than a decade later, history repeats. The head of Plymouth asks Brock Yates, senior editor of Car and Driver and inventor of the Cannonball Run, "Why aren't younger buyers flocking to my showrooms for the GTX? This is a great supercar, but they're buying GTOs and 396s and Torinos. What's wrong with the GTX?" And Brock said, "There's nothing wrong with it, but I want you to take everything out of it that doesn't make it go fast and find a way to sell it for under $3,000. And they did. You know it as the Roadrunner.
And guess what? The idea worked. Yes, suddenly the Roadrunner was a rage, and of course we know how it stands in muscle car history. Well, this 1955 Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria just sold here at Barrett-Jackson. Just sold for $20,000.
Beautiful car, Regency purple and snowshoe white. That is a poodle skirt car if I ever saw one, and I can see that couple having a great time driving that to the local soft serve ice cream parlor on the weekend. Good for them. Here's a 92 Jeep Wrangler Custom.
This is the YJ generation, easy to tell with the square headlights. So this one dramatically customized. You can see the suspension lift, the widened fender flares, the custom bumper and all that stuff. So this thing is definitely built to go off-road and improved, and massively improved under the hood. So no inline six with this one, a 350 cubic inch Chevy V8.
Yeah, to your point, I think literally every aspect of this Jeep has been redone, whether it's underneath with the suspension, bigger shocks, bigger lift kit. You know, you were talking about the work that's been underneath, not just the fact that they put in that 5.7 liter V8, but the fact that they've also done a lot of work, put in a new Holley carburetor, done a lot of things to give it a little more performance, make it more enjoyable.
And it's not just a suspension lift, it's also a body lift. You can see these pucks right here. This is a way to raise the truck, the body itself, off of the frame to get even more clearance without getting too goofy on the proportions as far as with the suspension. So that's another way to get the body even higher in the air, and it all looks very well done here.
Something I've not seen is that two-piece steel horse hardtop with the removable panels instead of just a solid roof. That's pretty cool.
And in the Jeep world, it's definitely no harm, no foul. You know, everybody is content in the Jeep world to go, okay, let's modify it. Having it stock really doesn't add any value, especially with these square headlight models.
I do like this top, Mike, and yeah, it's something I have not seen before, where you can actually have some top-down fun, because removing a one-piece hardtop on these things, it is a bear of a job. Even with 3-4 guys, it is something. And then the soft top, of course, doesn't seal up well. It's very loud. So this is the best of both, and I think it's probably something that was starting to be done recently. I like it.
Patrick with the whistle and the towel up there in the skybox. He's got it for his bidder, $16,000. That is a great deal. A lot of Jeep for the money right there. Well done. Here's another Maserati Gran Turismo. This is the S model with that Ferrari V8. New, this was $135,000. What's it going to sell for today?
Quite a bit less, Mike, most certainly. Depreciation is the key on these, but you get a lot of cool stuff with them. Pininfarina styling, Ferrari-derived V8, but without that Ferrari price premium. So there's a lot to like with these things.
Yeah, I think they figured out a lot as Maserati started using these Ferrari powertrains, and they got more reliable. Something like this is you get a lot of that Italian flair, that excitement in something that's a little more drivable and maybe not quite as flashy. So I actually think these are quite good buys in the used car market these days.
When you think about it, you know, that Ferrari engine's pumping out 433 horsepower. Let's go back to 2010. You know, horsepower was coming back, but it hadn't arrived in a big way. To have, you know, this type of car with that kind of performance was very impressive with those packages.
Yeah, the fascinating thing about this engine is the Ferrari V8 has a flat plane crank that gives it that really kind of shrieky howl. This has a 90-degree crank, which is very similar to a small block Chevy. So it doesn't have quite the same emotional presentation, but as a stated Grand Tourer car, they're actually pretty good. And Tyler, I'm curious, these are pretty popular on the internets, right? Because you can buy them cheap and you get Ferrari stuff.
I think every YouTuber has probably gone through a Maserati or two, and, you know, especially ones in much worse condition than this, and, you know, try them, bring them back, because the entry price is low. This one's very nice. I think just shy of 60,000 miles. It has, I think, the MC Stradale pack with carbon fiber, so some options to like. It's still $20,000 for something over 100 grand new. Man, this is incredible.
Yeah, but it's the cost of the repairs. It's the cost of what.
Well, this right now is less than an Isetta.
The Isetta sold earlier today for $25,000. Now we're almost getting in that money, but I mean, you've been down that road, Tyler. You know how it looks simple sometimes and it can get really expensive really fast.
My channel is a roadmap of what not to do a lot of the times, but this one I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, but in my head, I'm the optimist. I'm like, oh, the internet's figured out all the problems. You just got to go on the forums.
And there's its new owner, $25,000 plus the 10% buyer's premium. Well, if you like sports cars, you're going to want to stick around for lot 211, a 2004 Porsche Boxster, a 986.2 edition with a 2.7-liter flat six and Tiptronic transmission, 90,000 actual miles. That's coming up.
Closing in on the last half hour of our Thursday coverage of the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction, the inaugural event from Columbus, Ohio. Over the block right now, a 1998 Chevy K1500 pickup truck.
This truck looks to have never been abused, never been put away wet. It has less than 50,000 miles and looks like it just rolled out of the showroom. Great piece here.
Yeah, super amazing. I mean, pickup trucks, right? They get used, they get abused. They're tools. And so to see one that was somebody's pride and joy that they parked and maybe even drove in the winter is rare.
Cab and a half body style. Not a full crew cab, but that's okay. Just enough.
And it looks like people are responding to what that is, how rare it is. I mean, $26,000 seems like a pretty good price.
Well, there's a lot of these still around. The problem is most of them have turned to dust and rust in this part of the country.
Well, and plus the plastics of those interiors, right? They just from age, they get brittle and they break. I mean, kind of an amazing truck.
You say that, but they'll run badly forever, rusting, falling apart. That's the thing about them. They are invincible in that sense, where they'll just keep going. But yeah, you never see them like this. And this one being the end of the line for the GMT 400, 49,000 miles. These are collector's items. I mean, it's just an irreplaceable truck as far as the build quality and basically the longevity these things can have.
Did they have that on the brochure? It'll run poorly forever.
$26,000 for that 1998 Chevy K1500 pickup at Z71.
You just don't see them like that. You know what Neil Young's saying? Rust never sleeps.
Taking a look out of the McGuire staging lanes, yeah, not a lot of cars left today, but they'll fill that up in just a moment because those are all the cars that are yet to cross the block. And once again, it's been a fun variety of things that we've seen on this opening day. And a lot of entry-level stuff that's really enjoyable. Right now, we got a 2000 Mercedes-Benz CLK 320 Cabriolet.
Well, this will be the V6 version, the base version of this C-Class convertible. No AMG styling kit or anything like that, just the base convertible.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. Is this was the first generation of the Mercedes that got rid of the venerable straight six in favor of the V6. And you could tell by the 4 headlights that became a hallmark for Mercedes styling for quite a while, which I thought they did really, really well.
They do look a lot better with the sport package. Of course, the CLK55 is one of the first production AMG cars that was on this body style, the C36 being the first in 1995. So it's almost unusual to see one where someone resisted the urge to put AMG wheels on it, AMG badges, to leave it stock. So I'll give it a nod for that. But the current bid, though, is only $3,000. You in, Larry?
Oh, it's kind of amazing because this generation of Mercedes still had what I call that car from a vault feel to it. They still feel really well screwed together. The doors shut with a nice, satisfying clunk. I mean, there's a lot traditional Mercedes feel in this generation.
63,000 miles, so well enjoyed, but kind of just barely broken in. A lot of life left here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think these are still high-quality Mercedes. This is when Mercedes was still like the engineering, what do you ever call it, the greatest engineering company in the world, and these are great cars. But they are not sporty. These are very much they're comfortable.
Boulevard cars.
Yeah, supple. I mean, totally nice. And the way they engineered this was not a lot of wind buffeting. So as a convertible, these are super pleasant cars.
Well, tell you what, 62,000 miles on it, yeah, barely broken in, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for only $5,500. That is the deal of the day. All right, before they sell the cars here at Barrett-Jackson, they sell automobilia. It's stuff like this all-original 1950s Coca-Cola. It's a 10-cent coin-operated soda machine sold for $5,000, and there's no Coke inside. A perfectly restored 1930s service station Eco tire inflator, that sold for $7,000. Now, back in the 1950s, you would have filled up your car using this Mobil Oil. It's a Wayne 70 gas pump. And this sold this morning here at Barrett-Jackson for $9,600. And remember, each day they're going to sell more. So those are some of the items that you'll see crossing the auction block for the automobilia portion of the Barrett-Jackson collection every morning over the course of the next 2 days.
So, Rick, a standard soda can today is 12 ounces. You know how much those Coke bottles held that filled that machine? 6 3/4. But for a dime, that was a deal.
Exactly. $6,000 is the current price on a 2004 Mercedes-Benz SL 500 Roadster.
Well, what are we missing here? This should be, I would say, 3 to 4 times the price. How many miles on this?
It says NA.
It's broken, Mike. It's not showing, unfortunately.
NA. So that's part of the question. I'm sorry, didn't mean to blindside you with that one, but
yeah, these are there's a lot of fun electronic features on this. That roll bar that you see behind the front seats was actually supposed to be retracted down, and it popped up in the event of an impact. And so you could also, I don't know why this has popped up. That'd be a question I'd want to know.
For show. Call it a style bar when it's something not needed, right?
You can hit a button and it goes up. And these have a lot of technology with that retractable hard drop, the ABC suspension. But I guess a bit of a dice roll because you fix the cluster on it, then you find out the miles. Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000?
Yeah.
I suppose the vehicle history report would tell you, but it actually looks to be in pretty nice condition.
So look at the front bumper and look at the little dots on the bumper face. That is what Mercedes called Parktronic, and it's kind of a radar distance system for what you were about to bump into or back into. And you paid, I think, almost $1,000 for that option on these cars. Now, a lot of cars come standard with it.
Yeah, and especially this generation, it looks so sporty, and it's disconnected from the driving experience. Again, it's another boulevard car, but it looks like it's a speed machine, but it's not.
$11,500 for that Mercedes SL 500 Roadster. 1997 Jaguar XK8 convertible.
66,000 miles, British Racing Green. This car had the styling promise of the fabled E-Type. but not the performance of the E-Type. Again, another great boulevard car.
Absolutely. These were cruiser cars, but it did have the new AJ V8 that Jaguar came out that eventually powered all those Range Rovers and things. So there's some hardware in here that became really important. And this was when they really tried to revamp Jaguar and bring back its glory. Of course, it's still been a struggle ever since, but this was one of the first ones that said that Ford actually owned them at the time. They were investing a lot of money.
I agree. This was the last good run for Jaguar here in the late 90s when they did a lot of the revamps with this. Of course, the XKR, the high-performance version, a really good-looking car with a supercharger. Same with the sedans. I think one of the most beautiful sedans of all time came out of this era of Jaguar. This one, there's a lot to like here as far as the British Racing Green, and I think it has pretty low mileage, the V8 engine, and that real wood dash in this one.
So I'll disagree with you a little bit, Tyler, because I love the F-Type. I think they nailed the design of that car. It's pretty solid. Yeah, you're sneering your lips, I know. But for me, I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Well, it's really interesting because earlier we looked at the S197 Mustang and said how much we liked that they took those retro cues back. But then when they tried to do it on this and they put the kind of E-Type front end on it, we all kind of went, hey, wait a minute, don't mess with the E-Type.
That's what I like about the F-Type. They just moved it forward. They didn't try to go retro with it. So
you haven't tried to keep one of those running. That's the problem with those later Jaguars, at least in my opinion. But these are pretty solid as far as reliability with them, and I think we're getting a pretty solid price for it.
A little earlier today, we had the XJS roll across the block, which was really the previous generation. They were good cruisers, if you want to call it that. This had a sportier look to it. And it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson Columbus for $15,000. Congratulations to those folks right there. Oh, what a day we've had so far here at the Ohio Expo Center, the fairgrounds. Plenty of people, plenty of cars, and plenty of stuff left to come. Well, there it is, a recreation of the Blues Brothers Bluesmobile.
It's got cop tires, it's got cop shocks. Is that the new Bluesmobile or what?
It's perfect. I love it out there. Yeah, you'll definitely get some attention when you roll around your neighborhood with that thing. Right now we got a 2010 Mercedes-Benz E550 up on the block.
Extremely low miles on this one, just 12,000 miles and a one owner. It does have a ding on the vehicle history report, but I can't tell as far as anywhere it's been hit. So V8 engine in the coupe and very extremely low miles, and that's why you're seeing the price of $21,000. Traditionally, they're not bringing this much when they're this old.
Yeah, these were kind of sleeper AMGs in my view. It didn't have the crazy motor, but the 7-speed automatic shifted really quickly. It was kind of one of the first before they had DSGs, so this is quite a thrilling car to drive.
Interesting two-door hardtop body line. This side window does retract, at least most of it back to this point, and a glass roof on this one as well. This one's been treated, it looks like, to a lot of extra window tint, and now it has a new home.
Yeah, for $23,000 here at Barrett-Jackson in Columbus. A little while ago, as we were going to break, we previewed a 2004 Porsche Boxster, and now it has arrived up on the auction block.
So this is the Gen 1 Boxster, the .2 version for 2004, and this has the Tiptronic transmission. And they don't have the paddles. It's not a paddle shifter. There are thumb buttons on the steering wheel spokes. The upper part of the button to upshift, the bottom part of the button to downshift. They're on each side of the horizontal spokes. That was an awful idea.
Yeah.
Racer Derek Bell and other racers suggested to Porsche and got the paddle shifters installed for the next generation of this.
Yeah, I mean, this car was a byproduct of the 996, which was first air-cooled or water-cooled 911. These are fantastic chassis. They feel really stiff for a convertible. It's got a nice power top that goes up and down really quick. Fantastic bargains in sports car world, in my view.
Yeah, a lot of the 911 purists don't like this car because it shares too many pieces with the 911, but this is the car that really helped save the 911 during that.
Absolutely, it's a good point. They increased the sales volume and brought a lot more people into Porsche.
$16,000, that's the price that one sells for. We got a 2004 Mercedes-Benz CLK 320 Cabriolet up on the block.
Once again, another CLK where they resisted to AMG-ify it, whether from the factory, the sport package, or afterwards. It has the stock wheels, all looking very stock, and sort of a, sort of pedestrian pewter paint job to it. 41,000 miles, the cream leather interior. So nothing sporty about this one, but it is a very classy looking machine.
This is like the Florida color combo, isn't it? Because you maybe resist some of the sun fade and some of the brighter colors or the deeper colors.
You'd be able to hit the country club with this one pulling up, most definitely. And it doesn't look, I mean, even though it's a 2004, I think these have aged very well to where you do look like you've made it, even buying one of these for a fraction of MSRP.
Oh, that's an interesting point. If I saw this today in a dealership, it does not look old. It does look modern. I hadn't thought about that.
Oh, man, I spoke too soon because somebody did put the AMG badge on the back. Oof. Even though it doesn't have the AMG Sport Package and the AMG wheels, they did add it.
Yeah, but another nice thing about this is it really is a true four-seater convertible, which are rare, as you know.
Well, I'm sure that AMG badge added at least, $8,000 to the price on that one. 2004 Mercedes-Benz CLK just sold for $18,000. All right, it's the Blues Brother machine that has arrived. Now, this is a recreation built in a 1973 Chrysler Newport.
Yeah, I have no clue what's going to happen here. Do you?
It's wild because it's not on a Dodge Monaco, which would have been more correct for the film. So it's on a Chrysler Newport. So we don't have the cop engine. We don't have the cop suspension. We don't have the cop brakes. We don't have the cop shocks because this is the civilian Newport that it started as, and somebody made it look like the Bluesmobile with the police paint job, the giant speaker on top. But it's more, luxury origins. You can see with the interior, that green sort of leather or velour interior. It's been covered up, some of it, but definitely not originally a cop car.
So imagine you had like a bar or something like that, or a restaurant. Wouldn't this be one of those things that'd be great to park outside and sort of generate some interest, almost like a billboard? I'm reaching here.
I think so. I mean, if you're an enthusiast of the film, it's been a minute, but obviously it has a big cult following. It's something people watch over and over again. So you immediately think Bluesmobile when you see this thing. Even I think my generation and younger, it's one of those movies you just have to see.
Yeah, for sure.
We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark. We're wearing sunglasses. It's a great line from that movie. $12,000. And if you get that speaker to work, imagine then in front of your restaurant, your bar, everybody will know you're there.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to have a lot of fun at parades and things like that, because this car is going to get an entry no matter what.
What is that speaker up on top? Where did that come from?
It looks like a tornado siren almost, but yeah, pretty ridiculous. They have the CV inside, but I don't think it's all hooked up and functional. I don't see an actual speaker inside, but just a wild thing here.
Well, April Rose just checked in and said it's an air raid siren, so you were pretty darn close.
It's one of those things, is cars as a canvas, right? There's somebody out there, it's something they really wanted, and they took a car and they made it.
Exactly. They just sold for $15,000. Let's check in with Mike Joy, who's standing by with a special guest.
Craig Jackson and I have been trading quotes from the Blues Brothers movie, one of both of our favorites. Not the Mirthmobile, but that's so much fun to come to Barrett-Jackson because it's a classroom as well as a car show and a great auction. So first day in Columbus, what I saw, Craig, were a lot of cars that just don't exist in the Rust Belt because they're all dust and rust. Across the block in great condition for really good money.
They did, and people brought them from Arizona, the Southwest here, and people remember them, they wanted them, and they're in great condition, to your point. And look at some of the top sellers. So that 66 Hurst recreation topped it off. But the Celine that we had talked about earlier this morning, lot 126, did very well. But across the board, that Hudson pickup truck, we had one of those. The restoration of those is very hard. That thing was in great shape. Today, the crowds, I think, was it. Opening day, this place was packed. So we're excited.
I talked to a lot of the consigners over the last couple days. They're really excited about coming into a new market for Barrett-Jackson this weekend.
It is. Come into the heartland. So many people I talked to drove here. We had talked about that, how close it is to just drive here. People that said, I've always gone to Palm Beach or Scottsdale. Now you have one here. I can just drive here, and they love it. So I think we're on to something here.
Absolutely. Can't wait for tomorrow.
Yep. It'll get better every day.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen. Right now, we got something fun up on the block. A 1928 Chevy AB National, and it just sold for $9,700. And those folks are getting high fives. They decided that's what they want to take home, and I think that's something pretty fun they can enjoy. We're going to take a quick break. Come back to Columbus. Well, let's check out the top sellers from our first day of the auction here in Columbus. Number 3 on the day, a 2006 Mustang. This one's special. It's a Celine. It sold for $48,000. Number 2 on the day, well, it was a Cobra Recreation. This one had that big 427 cubic inch engine under the hood. It sold for $53,000. And the top sale of the day, well, this was a what if. What if they'd made a convertible version of the Shelby GT350H? And this one sold for $59,000 here at Barrett-Jackson in Columbus. Day 1 is almost done, but there's still a few cars left across the block, like this 1990 Eldorado.
Well, this one has the very lurid Southwest package where everything has been gold-plated. That could be all of the jewelry. The Continental kit hung off the back, the faux convertible top in white against red, and it has just rolled its way up here to $7,500.
Nothing classes things up like a Continental kit there, Mike, but this one, not a real spare tire. It's just a faux one, if you will.
Well, it's a faux personal luxury car, and there it goes to its new home for $7,500. Well, we all wondered growing up in the 60s what would happen if tiny little American Motors wanted to play in the big leagues. Here's Rick.
In the late 1960s, American Motors decided it wanted to change its image, and they wanted to do it with horsepower. For decades, American Motors had been the sensible shoes automaker, but cars like this AMX right here changed everything. It was the only 2-seater major factory American sports car besides the Corvette. It had aggressive styling on a short wheelbase, put in AMC's 390 engine, and it was a potent combination on the drag strip. But this Javelin is the car that really helped American Motors get the public's attention. This is a Mark Donohue SST edition, designed to show off AMC's Trans Am racing team. American Motors had partnered with Roger Penske and his secret weapon, Mark Donohue, an engineer behind the wheel. Donohue didn't just drive the Javelin in the Trans Am, he developed it, turning a modest underdog into a championship machine. This Donohue edition has heavy-duty suspension and ram air induction. Yeah, it's a long way from the Trans Am car, but close enough to make you feel American Motors was moving up.
Great history there. That 1970 Trans Am Javelin and the one that won the championship the next 2 years, those have all been restored, and they'll be racing this year at Monterey, at Laguna Seca, at Lime Rock Labor Day, and Watkins Glen the week after with historic Trans Am.
Just the perfect example of win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Exactly.
Right now we got a 1999 Mercedes-Benz CLK 320 Cabriolet.
Well, we had one a little bit ago. This one's silver with the silver interior and blue top. I love the color combination. And again, it's the base car. It's not no AMG styling package, no V8.
You can see someone unfortunately nicked the front star on the hood. I just had to do that on my 98 S500 to replace it. It was only 80 bucks, so it shouldn't stop you from buying this thing.
Yeah, this is from that era when the Germans were still enthralled with rear drive personal luxury coupes. The rest of the world had largely abandoned this sort of segment, but they were still in it pretty deeply, and they had convertible versions, coupe versions, V8s, all kinds of stuff.
So that hood-mounted star appears in the photos in the catalog and on the screen. So what'd you do with it, Tyler?
Oh, no. I didn't five-finger it. I bought it legitimately from the Mercedes dealer. I promise you.
It makes a nice necklace, doesn't it?
Oh, the Flavor Flav, yeah, bling. That's a good idea.
Wait a minute. You just had your anniversary. Was that the gift?
What's the first-year anniversary gift hood ornament? What?
So, we're looking at this thing hovering around $5,000. I would take a flyer. This is a pretty pleasant car for that kind of money, if you ask me.
How many miles? Well, we'll have to check it out here.
It's about 78,000 miles.
78,000. For this kind of money, that's nothing.
Do you remember Mrs. Doubtfire when Pierce Brosnan pulled up in his Mercedes and Robin Williams is out there and just rips the thing off and carries it in?
You guys are talking a big game, but I don't see anybody waving their hand at the bidder here, for the bidder's assistant.
I was hoping you would do it, Rick.
Yeah, you could take us all to dinner in this.
I mean, you'd have to pay because I'd be out $5,700.
Oh, there's that.
Oh. Plus the 10% buyer's premium. There it goes for $5,600 to that gentleman right there. Apparently he was listening into your conversation. Decided he couldn't pass it up. You got to love this one rolling up on the block behind it. A 1995 Buick Roadmaster Limited.
At least this one has the hood ornament.
I mean, wow. These are small block V8, I think almost 300 horsepower. These are actually really cool cars.
In 1994, they lost their engine. So the only thing they had around to do it was the LT1 V8, so the Ironhead Corvette engine, which was pretty impressive from 94 to 96. And then the big body as far as the Buicks, the Cadillac Fleetwood, and the Chevy Caprice were gone. Chevy's never made anything like it since.
Yeah, we call these road blasters. Big, large, and in charge.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a great start to our inaugural Columbus auction, but guess what? We have 2 more days coming at you this week. We're going to kick things off tomorrow at noon Eastern time with 6 hours of live auction action right here on FYI. So make sure you tune in. And from Mike Joy, Tyler Hoover, April Rose, and Larry Webster, I'm Rick DeBrule. Thank you so much for being here and riding along with us. And we will see you tomorrow from Columbus, Ohio.